3, 2, 1.
And ladies and gentlemen of the jury, the prosecution is not going to get that man today. No, because I'm going to get him.
This is the Hagmann and Hagmann report for today. Today, of course, is Monday, December 17th, 2012. I'm Doug Hagmann. I'm the host along with my son, Joe Hagmann. Folks, you're about to hear 3 hours of unbiased, uncensored news, analysis, information that you need to know in these perilous times. We broadcast live each and every weeknight from 8 to 11 p.m. Eastern Time. Hopefully, folks, you had a chance to hear last night's broadcast, a special Sunday night broadcast with Henry Groover. That was just a fantastic show. Anyway,
incredible show.
Joe, I'll tell you what, we had such an outpouring of response from that show. I would urge everyone to go and listen to that via archive. Henry Groover, 3 hours with him and a godly man, and we talked about a lot of things, including what happened in Newtown and the judgment.
Yeah, we touched on that. And also, last Thursday, I think the 14th, was it? We had Russ Dizdar on, and he
nailed it. He nailed what's going on today.
And he laid it out, said that things were going to increase like this, these shootings, these different evil events with people questionable. He mentioned, the possibility of their personalities being changed or something wrong with them to where they are under mind control, hypnosis, some kind of
or demonic possession.
Yeah,
it's and how else can you describe the wholesale slaughter of children in that manner as nothing less than demonic possession? I understand there's a pharmaceutical or a psychological overlay there, but equally important is that demonic possession. But Joe, tell us before I get into something I do want to start the show off with. Before I do that, what are we going to be talking about? We're definitely going to be spending some time on the shooting from a different angle. But
that's news to me. But
no, of course not.
We have a lot going on here. And I got my laptop back this weekend, so I have news stories scattered throughout different parts of two computers, so I'm rounding them up. But we're going to be talking about the calls for gun control that are coming from every direction in the news media. We have Dianne Feinstein to introduce an assault weapons ban.
Depending on where you come from.
Feinstein. Armed task force to patrol streets. Police chief says citizens could be subject to ID checks. This is an interesting story I just read before the show started, and this is in America. This is talking about basically, just like I said, the people patrolling the streets in SWAT gear, checking IDs. Almost 40 residents, they say, at this town hall meeting, 40 residents, that in 2013 they will begin to deploy a new street crimes unit to high crime areas on foot to take back the streets. They're going to be in SWAT gear, have AR-15s around their necks, and we're going to ask why you're walking, and where you're walking, and
Papers,
let me see your ID.
What city is this?
This is out of...
It really doesn't matter. It's in America, and it's an affront to the liberties of our country. If this is what we have to resort to, then we've got obviously more problems than we can.
Oh yeah,
we can really identify with.
I have a clip of Ed Schultz. He is calling for gun control.
Of course. After this, this is something that we're going to get into one aspect of the shooting is the blowback.
Yep.
And we have to talk about that. But before we go on, I just want to touch on one thing that after doing hours and actually days of research, I think this is important to really understand. What we have is God being separated from our government. And when God is separated from our government, judgment follows. I'm not talking about God being taken out of schools and churches, or schools and, well, in some cases, churches. And all elements of our lives. And people will say, well, gee whiz. It's really the separation of church and state. Well, no, it's not. Look, history is replete with examples of what happens when God is separated from our laws and our government and the people who make the laws. For instance, Hitler did not, and we can go back to World War II and Hitler, which is a good, and even if some may contend it's an overstudied example, but Hitler did not discourage people from attending church. Hopefully everyone knows that. He was a baptized Catholic who had long abandoned his faith, but he did not care if others continued to attend church as long as it did not affect the way they lived or the values they held. Now think about that for a moment. Really, I mean, okay. He explicitly said that he would not interfere with the specific doctrines of the church, just as long as the churches were teaching those things that were in harmony with the good of the German people.
Yeah, until 1948.
Well,
1938.
He called this positive Christianity. And is this not the very thing that we're starting to see now? Of course it is. Now, he knew that he would encounter opposition from those who were not on board with his vision of this toothless Christianity. The toothless Christianity of today, for example, of the Rick Warrens of the world. Now, he believed that he could crush any opposition he might encounter, and he basically did just that through intimidation, and he even controlled salaries of some of the ministers. Germany had a state church, and the pastors were dependent on the good graces of government for their income, and Hitler just ridiculed and marginalized the Protestant pastors and essentially had them cowering and saying that, he threatened them with their salaries, much like the 501c3s of America today. So from the beginning, Hitler sought to marginalize the church to guarantee that no Christian influence would be allowed to inform government policy. Now, isn't that what we're seeing with Obamacare? I think it is.
Yeah. And Hitler, when he began his genocide campaign, first he started with gun laws. Licenses to obtain and carry firearms shall only be issued to persons who reasonably is not in doubt, and after providing a need for them.
Right. Well, see, but see, again, it goes back to the Christianity, taking God out of this, though. But
the last part of that is a license shall not be granted if the applicant is a Jew.
Well, okay,
and that's where it starts.
And this is how one of the areas we're going to approach this with the shooting, because don't forget what we're seeing right now is the painting of the mother as a prepper, believing in fact that the economy was going to collapse, and also, sort of homeschooling, if you will, her child. That might be an improper characterization, but you get the idea. There's going to be a picture painted, much in line with the MIAC type report, but much greater than that. But back to Hitler, just remember this, especially since this is Christmas time. We're within a week or so of Christmas. Christians or Germans had for centuries celebrated Christmas and Easter, but Hitler reinterpreted their meaning, of course, Christmas was turned into a totally pagan festival. At least, well, for the SS troops, the date for Christmas was changed to December 21st, the date of the winter solstice.
Yeah,
and that's steeped in pagan.
As well as the 25th of December.
Well, as they went on, school prayers were banned, and Christmas carols and nativity plays were forbidden in the schools. And isn't that what we're seeing now? Maybe not in schools, but in other places. In 1938, even the name Christmas was changed to Yuletide. Did you know that? That's where Yuletide came from. Crucifixes were eliminated from classrooms. And as time went on, Easter was turned into a holiday that heralded the arrival of spring, and if religion was tolerated, it had to be secularized, and that's exactly what's taking place here in this country right now.
You spoke in 1938. In November of 1938, Germans attacked the Jews by looting storefronts, burning the synagogues, murdering the civilian. The next day, a law stating Jews forbidden to possess weapons is passed. This includes a firearm, a club, or sharp-edged weapon. Violators face 5 years in a concentration camp. Then the Jewish people turned their weapons into the police, or the Nazis stormed in after them. They were stripped of their power to resist. And all across Europe, men and women fought and resisted the Nazis, but not in Germany, where Hitler seized their weapons between 33 and 45. 3 million political opponents were captured and sent to concentration camps. Well, aside from the Jews.
Right,
and then that's part of where we're headed, also.
Exactly, but Hitler's real intentions were not immediately revealed, just as Obama's, and even I will say both the right and the left in this country, their agendas are not being revealed. Because right after Hitler was sworn in as chancellor, what he paid tribute to Christianity as an essential element for safeguarding the soul of the German people, and I say that kind of tongue in cheek because he promised to respect the rights of the churches, but he of course he neutralized the churches, and he kept them toothless, as I mentioned earlier.
An interesting parallel between Obama and Hitler is both came in at a time when the country was in turmoil politically and economically. Obama has, ruined it more. Well, Hitler had the economy flowing, he started to revive it or whatever, to where Germany became prosperous again. But they both take control of countries that are wrecked. They both make these laws, and this is not just Obama or Hitler. There's a history of this, of these dictators, these tyrants.
Well, the parallel, however, between Hitler and Obama, regardless of the eye rolling and the people saying, "Oh, come on, this is overused and overstated," it's extremely interesting because there are many who tolerated the excesses of the Nazi regime, much as they're tolerating the excesses of the Obama regime. But they continue to study the Bible. They maintained like a warm heart, and I got to say, that they got it. The people did worship, and they got it. They were sort of half right in a way, but they were much more effective than those who ceased to study the Bibles and enthusiastically endorsed the Hitlerian, the regime of Hitler. But look, these pious Christians thought that if they left Hitler alone, he would leave them alone. And isn't that what we're seeing? But they obviously discovered that was not possible. Hitler also put pressure on them to have their children indoctrinated in the state schools. And is that not what we're seeing now? Cultural pressure was present. The churches were not equipping their members to stand against the abuses that were developing. And that's the same thing we're seeing now.
Yeah, they were not warning the people of the dangers, I would assume. They were not...
No, not at all.
Speaking out against the injustices, the, tyrannical laws that were being passed, the environment that was being created before they really started to commit genocide.
Look, and Hitler did one thing that I think a lot of people don't understand. He used the church before he moved to destroy it. He used it for his own ends. And back in 1933, he arranged this really impressive display for the opening of the new session of the Reichstag, which was a German parliament, in the Garrison Church in Potsdam. And with all the pomp and ceremony, he sought to assure that the nation could follow a conservative path and seek harmony with the churches. And that's, again, what we're seeing today here in America. But 2 days after the ceremony, the Reichstag passed the enabling law, and I hear many people talk about that, where the power of the Reichstag was reduced to a sounding board for the party. The necessary majority to pass the bill is secured by arrest and of some opposition of parliament members and the threatening of others. So later that summer, Hitler proclaimed the Nazis as the only party in Germany, but Obama doesn't have to do that because that's really been done for him. And despite this so-called, this theory, this conciliatory beginning with Hitler and the churches, Hitler would try to obliterate the church, and then in the end he wanted to transform the church so thoroughly that every part of Christianity would be smashed and torn and redefined, and that's what we're seeing right now. But because there's not enough room in the churches for both Christianity and his agenda, and he once said that one God must dominate another, and what he meant by that, and folks, you can find that, I believe that quote in some of his writings, but what he meant by that is the state comes over any type of religion. And he noticed that the church was weak. He saw that the church was weak, but he made it weak by controlling a lot of the ideology and because he controlled the salaries, much like we see the 501c3s. And now there's a part here, too, to the story of Hitler when Martin Niemöller and Dietrich Bonhoeffer, who we've talked about before, opposed Hitler's intrusion into the affairs of the church. And, Hitler heard that there might be a church split because some of the pastors objected to his particular agenda, but he summoned the leaders of churches to a personal conference to which Niemöller in particular was included. That was back in 1934. And then what happened was this whole big thing where as time went on, the people within the church realized what Hitler was doing. Yet some of the leaders realized. Yet other people knew, or other people just went along. The Christians, they said, "No, it's okay." And I had read something too before, and I just want to grab this again because I think this is so powerful. And think about this.
No.
Go ahead.
When we talked about the history of gun confiscations and genocides in the last 100 years, we mentioned the first one, 1915, in the Ottoman Empire, the Christian Armenians that were 1.5 to 2 million Armenians were slaughtered. And this is what Hitler, he looked after this as a model. And this is what he said August 22nd, 1939. "Thus, for the time being, I have sent to the east only my death head units with the orders to kill without pity or mercy all men, women, and children of Polish race or language. Only in such a way will we win the vital space that we need. Who still talks nowadays about the Armenians?"
Well, that set up that whole particular genocidal reign that came along with gun control. But folks, remember, in the book, or from the book, I believe it was How to Kill 11 Million People, the story that, and every time I see this or read it, I just get, I think of today, and I think of the people of today. And folks, you can relate to this because the story goes something like this. There was a person that was interviewed, and he said, "I lived in Germany during the Nazi Holocaust. I considered myself a Christian. We heard stories of what was happening to the Jews, but we tried to distance ourselves from it because what could anyone do to stop it?" Well, a railroad track ran behind our small church, and each Sunday morning we could hear the whistle in the distance, and then the wheels coming over the tracks. We became disturbed when we heard the cries coming from the train as it passed by. We realized that it was carrying Jews like cattle in the cars. And week after week, we heard this whistle, and it would keep blowing and blowing, and we dreaded to hear the sound of those wheels because we knew what we would hear. We knew we'd hear the cries of the Jews en route to the death camps. Their screams tormented us. We knew the time the train was coming through. And when we heard the whistle blow, we began singing hymns. By the time the train came past our church, we were singing at the top of our voices. If we heard the screams, we sang more loudly, and soon we heard them scream no more. Years have passed and no one talks about it anymore, but I still hear that train whistle in my sleep. God forgive me. God forgive me. Forgive all of us who called ourselves Christians, yet did nothing to intervene. And you think about that, and you think about the excuses made. What could we have done? What could we have done instead of sing louder? And we have in this country, I dare say, a nation of Christians who are singing while the train is passing by. Here in America, where freedom of speech is expressly granted in the Constitution, it's easy for us to say, well, look, Nazi Germany, we're so far from that, it's incredible. But if you think that's the case, just really consider it, reconsider what you're thinking, because, see, when truth is rejected in the public sphere, or redefined even in the public sphere, like it is today, the state will either turn to some semblance of natural law, or even worse, to lies, and secular values will be imposed on our society, and it's going to be done in the name of freedom. And isn't that what we're seeing today?
Freedom and democracy.
The people, our social planners, they're dedicated to reshaping America according to purely humanistic values. And they agree with Hitler that God and religion must be removed from government. That's you. That's you, the pagans out there, the Luciferians, the secularists, the polytheists, the so-called Gaia worshippers, the Earth worshippers. The ACLU, by the way, believes that God must be separated, not just from government, but from every part of American life. Religion, and in particular Christianity, must be taken from government, from law, from education, and from the workplace. That's what they believe. That's what they're trying to do. Mm-hmm. So with the so-called public square, our public square, free of any hint of religious values, what's going to fill that vacuum? What is going to fill the vacuum? Well, we see what's filling that vacuum.
Yeah. We have New Age religion, the Oprahs of the world, with their Christ consciousness, UN, Lucis Trust connected New Age religion. We see Madonna, the satanic rituals, the Kabbalah in Hollywood, Scientology.
And folks, if you don't think that like Russ Dizdar said, there is a demonic force, and isn't it something that less than 36 hours after Russ Dizdar came off our program, telling us that we were going to see
less than 12
bloodshed, right?
It was right in the morning afterwards.
All right, but Russ Dizdar, and he's not a prophet. He doesn't claim to be a prophet, but he told us what was going to happen, and it happened.
Right, and he was speaking in time in a general time.
Right.
In the future, this is what we're going to see.
But see,
increased darkness and evil manifesting in the physical world.
Right. But when we take God out of American law, life, and from the public arena, the vacuum is filled with secular values, and now we start looking for non-spiritual fixes for spiritual problems. Now we call for gun control and gun bans and all of this, when in fact it's not the guns that kill people, obviously, and people say that, and they more eye rolling, and oh, come on. But the cheapness that we regard human life. I mean, look at abortion. Look at euthanasia. The promotion of all forms of immorality, and from homosexual to marriages to the sexualization of school children, for crying out loud.
And we talked about how there is such this huge media attention for the shootings. Shouldn't we see, 100 times that media attention on a daily basis for the 3,000 plus innocent babies that are aborted and murdered every single day?
And didn't God ask Cain where his brother was? And Cain said, am I my brother's keeper? And God said, but I hear him crying. I hear his blood crying from the soil, from the earth. And isn't that what is happening with the thousands of aborted babies on a daily basis?
Yeah.
And people don't equate. See, the very same people who want to outlaw the guns, who say the guns are the problem, are the very same people who say it's okay to kill, to murder, to take out the children, the unborn children. It's okay because it's different.
What sense does that make? I mean, it shows the hypocrisy of the agenda. They want their agenda. It doesn't matter if it makes sense.
I have an answer for you, because see, the secularism that they're pushing is not religiously neutral. It's not a religious neutral agenda. It's being posed upon society as the only viable point of view, but it's not secular and it's not neutral. Laws are being passed that are going to prevent, that will, I guarantee you right now, that are going to prevent effective opposition. Okay,
that's done.
It is freedoms which were once part of our history. They're going to be looked upon as gone, as withdrawn, as religion is designated as private, and that's actually code for irrelevant and essentially powerless. And we are going to allow this. We, as a people, have allowed everything to this point, have we not? We have acted like those church people and sang louder as the cries of the Jews were heard. And just as Germany had Christian holidays paganized, what are we doing? We've witnessed a systematic removal of all religious symbols from public places. At first it was crosses on Christmas, and Christmas trees, and Christmas Day, and it was Christmas trees themselves, and that became a controversy, and the nativity scenes, of course, and then, during the holiday season, now public schools very seldom refer to Christmas anymore in their celebrations. Instead, they call them, the winter programs and the holiday programs. This is exactly what's going on. Mm-hmm. Okay, this is what we're doing, and we're not only following this, but the leaders that we have are exporting this, just as we have allowed this to happen in our country. We're exporting this to other countries. We're doing this. We're doing the same way. We're attempting to reshape other countries. And we as American citizens are allowing this to take place without even saying a word, without saying, hey, stop it. Enough is enough. Where's our line in the sand? I often think back, and I've got some things I'm going to be writing here. Think back to Tiananmen Square and that one lone person in front of that tank column. But, somebody had said in China that people in China have freedom of religion. They can be as free as they wish within their own minds. And is that where we're going to be relegated to? Look, the bottom line is this: when God is ousted from government, from laws, from our country, and these transient values, these secular values, or there secular values that come into play. The raw use of power comes into play. We accept eroticism. We accept pornography. We accept that as normal. We even accept, and think about this, folks, we accept arbitrary judicial rulings as normal. You see, we've got a constitution, but we also have a judicial branch. And that judicial branch is supposed to adhere to the Constitution, yet when it doesn't, and they make a law. We say, well, okay, that's fine. But the rulings are arbitrary based on what? Based on what? The judicial feelings. The morality of personal pragmatism is being replaced, or is replacing the Christian aspect of things. Now, look, civility, once a very, very big characteristic of American life, has really degenerated into something that I can't even, I certainly don't recognize. But you know, Dostoevsky, he once famously said, "When God does not exist, anything is possible." And is that not what we're seeing? If you look at the message, if you look at the sewer forums like Democratic Underground, to be specific, and you look at the raw hatred of people with guns.
Yes, and you said it perfectly. A raw hatred.
There is this unbelievable hatred. And there's ignorance on both sides. But yeah,
from Ed Schultz about
let's do that
confiscation.
Now. Let's do that now. And folks, this is the way things are going to go.
Yeah, and I want to give you a little background on this here. MSNBC Ed Schultz talks about gun confiscation. What he says is times are changing. Stop hiding behind the Second Amendment. And there's an article from Newsbusters. MSNBC Ed Schultz talks gun confiscation. Liberals always say they don't want to take away guns, but give them an awful tragedy like the shooting in Connecticut, and they get bolder and more honest. MSNBC host Ed Schultz showed a rare bout of such honesty during a brief Twitter exchange Saturday. Schultz asked, "Why should anyone own an assault rifle?" and followed it up by saying, "It's a confiscation of these types of weapons that counts and will have an impact."
Well,
this is what he said on his show.
Listen to this, and then we'll talk about it.
Americans will go to sleep tonight with a heavy heart. None of the words we use today seem to describe the heartbreak, the hurt, and anger, and the range of emotions all of us have felt. Our prayers are with the families and relatives of the victims. Tonight is a night for standing. I think we can all understand that, and it's a night that we need to cope with. But I do believe it's also a time we as a people come to grips with a changing society. We need to be the founding fathers on how to deal with the sickness in our country called gun violence. Hiding behind the Second Amendment doesn't cut it anymore. Hiding behind the Second Amendment can no longer be the shield for access. The people who wrote that document owned slaves, oppressed women, and were short on tolerance. I say to you tonight that times change, people's attitudes change, and it's time our lawmakers realize that society has changed, and despite the pressures of lobbyists, we need to move forward on gun violence in this country. And as a sportsman, I feel like I can speak with some freedom that I have owned firearms for over 40 years in my life. I know we can change. I know I have changed. We need to have this discussion now.
And there you have it. And also, he goes on tweeting Saturday night. He says the NRA needs to state the case why assault weapons are needed by anyone. He also went on to say that a Glock pistol qualifies as an assault rifle, and that last bit is surely a surprise to both gun owners and Congress, which didn't include handguns in the previous assault weapons ban. He finally says, changing the Constitution is to one person. We are the Constitution, and we as a people can change whatever we want. Get ready, he wrote.
There are two sides to this, and this is something I want to speak from my heart to every listener of this program right tonight. After talking with numerous, and I mean lots of people over the last couple of days, there has been a noticeable quickening, and I could tell you right now that what happened last week is a game changer. It has changed the tenor, and it has changed the speed, and it has evoked It has actually created a tipping point in this country.
It has changed the environment.
That's right.
Political.
Now, about that, and let me just take a really quick side note about that. I have received numerous emails about, the Holmes father, the Batman shooter, and this father, both, testifying in the LIBOR scandal case.
Yes.
I've also I've been there. I've received any type of email that has anything to do with this. I've read, I understand. Okay, but here's the issue. Okay, that was kind of my we're going to be addressing that during this program, because this does come into play,
as well as other anomalies of the shooting.
Now, look, we cannot politicize this event to the extent that we're taking sides with respect to or I shouldn't say that. We can't politicize it beyond, or we can't trivialize the politics of this. I shouldn't say we can't politicize. We can't trivialize the politics of this, because this strikes at the very heart of our freedoms as a nation. But it also removes from the discussion the personal responsibility and the spiritual aspect of what's taking place in this country. And everyone listening to this program right now, you can make a difference, because we are all, I consider myself, we're all ordinary people, but we can become ordinary heroes, especially in this time, in this place. We can make a difference. See, I believe that when God calls a man, he bids him to come up and die. That is actually what Dietrich Bonhoeffer said during the darkest days, when the church in Germany was being Nazified, when they were turning it into a Nazi mind camp, if you will. Those are his words, not mine. But I agree with them. And when he was 39, he practiced what he preached. He was actually hanged on the gallows. But here's the thing with that: we have now an opportunity to make a difference. We have now, as Christians, we cannot remain silent. We can't remain silent for fear of being embarrassed or disgraced. If we as believers are intimidated at work because of basic laws that might keep religion out of the workplace, or if a Christian nurse is silent about abortion because to speak out would put her job in jeopardy, if we keep Christ to ourselves because we fear of reprisals, then you know what? We're not taking a stand at all. We're lukewarm, just like the Bible, just like they talked about, just like God talked. We're lukewarm. So we've got to take a stand. And as ordinary people, we can become ordinary heroes. And see, everyone listening to this is a leader in your own sphere of influence. And there are many people who have made a difference. And one of the things that really I was really wrestling with in this kind of, I was thinking about this, because we know the battle's dark and deep ahead, but, is it really necessary for us to win our battles in order to be faithful to our calling? I don't think so. I think there are a lot of people in past history who have not really won in this life, but I personally don't have any doubt that there are winners in the next life. Just think of the martyrs who knew that losing on this life, in this plane, was winning in the other.
Disciples.
And Jesus put it well. To lose your life is to find it, and to find it is to lose it.
Yeah, that's not the exact quote, but yeah, that's
close enough. But see, it's better, and Peter Marshall said this, it's better to fail in a cause that will ultimately succeed than to succeed. Yeah, indeed. It's better to fail in a cause that will ultimately succeed than to succeed in a cause that will ultimately fail. Better to fail while serving God than to win while serving oneself. Better to die sharing the gospel than to live denying Jesus who purchased us. And let us not compromise. Let us not compromise. Let us never compromise. And God's word to us, I think, is clear. Do all things without grumbling or questioning, that you may be blameless and innocent, children of God, without blemish, in the midst of a crooked and twisted generation, among whom you shine as lights in the world, holding fast to the word of life, so that the day of Christ I may be proud that I did not run in vain or labor in vain. And that's from Philippians chapter 2, verses 14 through 16. So the point I'm trying to make is we are entering into a dark period. There's no turning back from where we're at right now, I believe. I believe that what happened last week was a game changer, was a tipping point, was a point in which we will not be coming back from. I believe that this is going to, even on the right, when you've got political commentators like Charles Krauthammer, who during the time when he was waiting for Obama to come back and talk, make a statement about the shooting, said, well, maybe it's time we reassess things, and people are ready, meaning you and I, we're ready to perhaps give up some First and Second and Fifth Amendment rights, give up some of those rights for a safer America. That's on the right. That's on the right if you consider Charles Krauthammer a conservative commentator. So that's the mentality.
The mentality, the economy that Biden has. When he said, are you saying we need to spend money to get out of bankruptcy? Yes, that's what I'm saying.
Well, and I think that it's important for people to know right now that the plans that the leaders have for this country is not to reform it. It's not to reformulate it. It's not to fundamentally change it. It's to destroy it. It's to destroy the very country in which we live, if it means taking everything down and taking everyone down. That's exactly what they're going to do. And don't give me that, well, we can elect Alan West or we can elect so-and-so to get in there and things will change. There's no changing anything at this point politically. There will be no political changes to walk us back from the abyss in which we find ourselves, because we can't walk ourselves back from this spiritual abyss, because at the root of the financial crisis, what's at the root of the financial crisis? Spiritual bankruptcy. Our financial bankruptcy is tied directly to our spiritual bankruptcy. There's no walking it back. And the mass murder of the innocents in Newtown, Connecticut, one might argue that this is a blood sacrifice, and if you believe in the Luciferian and the satanic ritualistic aspects of the people behind the curtain, then you know what I'm talking about. And if you don't believe it, that's okay, because people, it's okay. It doesn't matter. I mean, if you think it doesn't matter, but see, it doesn't matter what you and I believe. It matters what the people in charge believe. And I do believe, share this with you, I believe that we are at a point where the people in charge now are doubling down and tripling down. And the Christians in this country are shutting up. We're not talking. We're not getting out there and we're not saying, no, we're not going to take it anymore. Very few are doing that. And see, it's okay, because as we go now into the Christmas holidays, how many listening to this program, and be honest, how many listening to this program of you are going to say, well, gosh, I got to get to Grandma's, so I'm going to have to fly, and we're going to have to go to the airport and get felt up and get sexually assaulted and get nuked, and I'm just going to have to suck it up because, I'm just going to have to suck it up. I just got to get to Grandma's this year, and so look, so if little Timmy and little David and little Lisa there, if they have to get felled up by some Bull Dyke TSA agent or some other TSA goon, it's okay. It's okay, because you know why? Because we got to get to Grandma's. And you don't say a word. You don't say no. You don't say it's not right. But yet you'll complain. You will complain. You'll be the first to complain when your rights are taken away. You'll be the first. And the deer hunters and the hunters out there who own guns. Oh, they won't take guns from me. No, not at all. Yeah, you'll be the first ones. You'll be the first ones to turn them over. You see, because we've lost our will, and we've lost our will because we've lost our sense of spirit, our sense of our moral and spiritual guidance. That's what happens when our spirit becomes corrupted, in my view anyway. You start to accept things that you wouldn't ordinarily accept, and things become normal that are abnormal. And you see things as tolerant, and tolerance itself is evil, because evil is tolerated. And that's my view. Like it or not, that's how I feel. And you know what? During the third hour of the program, I would invite anyone, if you disagree, and especially if you disagree, give me a call. We'll talk about it.
Yeah. I would like to hear if some people have differing opinions on this, and it will not be an argumentative discussion. We want to hear. We really want to hear if somebody believes that guns need to be banned, why they feel so strongly about it.
Do you want to ban guns? Then ban billy clubs, then ban baseball bats, then cars, and you know what?
Everything.
I'm going to tell you something. Here's what I think would really work. I'll tell you something. I think what they ought to I think what we should heroin should be made illegal, and that would fix the problem. And marijuana should be made illegal. That would fix all illegal drugs, or all drugs should be made illegal. You know, wouldn't that fix the problem? Wait a second. Heroin is illegal.
Ron Paul made an excellent quote on that, though, during one of the debates, stating that if heroin were made legal tomorrow, how many people would just go out and use heroin because it were legal? He says, I bet nobody would, go out and say, oh yeah, I don't want to use heroin, so I need the government to create these laws, restricting the use of it, for my own protection. But
I'm going to tell you something. There is an agenda out there that is propelled by the Luciferian satanic people, the globalists behind this, that don't think like we do. They don't think like normal humans. I don't want to say they're soulless, but I think that they're possessed. I think they've got this demonic agenda, and they're pushing it on us. And we as Christians have to band together. And somebody said in the chat room, the only banding that should be done is us banding together, and I totally agree with that, because if we don't band together right now, if we don't stick together right now, if we don't say right now, enough is enough, but do it in the spirit do it in the godly spirit. You cannot people try to people try to talk about this issue and not talk about God, and that's such a cumbersome conversation, because at the heart of it all, it's about the spirituality. It's about the God factor. It's about God being in all of us, and you can't separate it. That's why. And I'd like to think that's why our program, people listen to our programs, because you can't extract you can't take out the two. They're intertwined, and we have to in the spirit of God, we have to fight back, even if we know that we may not succeed on this plane. We know that, as I mentioned earlier, we know that we will succeed. We will be rewarded for our efforts. But even if we can change one person and save one person, as Henry Gruver said last night in our show last night, I thought that was a beautiful show, by the way, then it hasn't been worth it. Even if there's one person or two people or five people, even if we touch that many people. But see, it's at this point now, you can see the writing on the wall. Can't you see the writing on the wall, folks? Cannot you see that your rights are about to be taken away, and you take away any part of the Second Amendment, so too you take away the first, parts of the Fifth, and pretty much you're gonna find yourself in bondage and slavery to a Luciferian satanic agenda.
Absolutely right, and that is correct. A Luciferian satanic agenda we will be at the mercy to. Regardless, it's going to happen. Russ Dizdar said it best when he alluded and talked about the Colorado Aurora movie theater shooting, the Fort Hood shooting. He talked about all these shootings. He said it will continue to happen. It will get worse, and until they get what they want.
You know something,
just like cybersecurity, what they're doing.
You're exactly correct, and I want to mention something because you said that you alluded to as well the communist goals, and I don't know if this was when this was, or if it was off air, on air, whatever. But remember, we had talked about the communist goals, and if you do any research on this, folks, just to tell you how insidious this agenda is. Communism is, as we've talked many times before, communism is alive and well in this country, of course. The agenda of communism. And the communist conspiracy, which is different than communism, but it's related. But here's the thing. Here's how insidious this is. And I'm going to name names here. You see, the Mickelson family that own Snopes, S-N-O-P-E-S, you know that website? Snopes, yes. The arbiter of the truth on the internet. Well, somebody had said, wow, the 1919, they found plans for this communist infiltration to take over of America, and they included a whole list of communist goals, and ultimately they were read into the congressional record and then reread a whole bunch of times because nobody thought that it was read in the beginning. Is this true? And the Mickelsons came out and says, no, it's not true. It's false. Well, you know what? Technically, they're correct. But practically, but even though they're technically correct, they're correct only on technical issues. See, because the communist goals weren't found in 1919 in this house and wherever it was. I can't remember now, Denmark or Netherlands or someplace, wherever they named. I don't have the notes in front of me. See, no, that's not a true part. But the true part, which they don't address properly, is the goals. And are these real live goals? Of course they are. And it does come from the naked communist. And Lucy, thank you. God bless you. Thank you. But and you'll know why. But see, these are real. These are real goals. And every one of these goals of the communists, and communism is a tool of the globalists, every one of them have come to pass, or almost come to pass. But they don't tell you that. They just lead you to believe, oh, this is false. This is just, no, you shouldn't believe this. That's lying by omission. Not lying by commission, but lying by omission. And see, this is how people get snookered into things in America today. This is how, because these little half-truths that are out there, the devil, the demonic agenda, the communists are so adept at this, so adept. They will tell you, they will say, oh, well, this is not true. This is not what we're doing. And the same thing with the Muslims. Because the Muslims and the Nazis, by the way, we know from history, have a great working history. And lest you think that I'm being a neocon or a Republican establishment rhino kind of guy, I point the finger of blame, too, at George Herbert Walker Bush and George W. Bush, and especially Richard Nixon. And for that matter, just about almost every Republican in the 20th century. I will take Reagan out of there because Reagan has a special man in many ways. Folks, you don't know. I mean, seriously, Reagan might have obviously had faults, but some of the things that he has done that have never been made published. Holy cow! And hopefully one day they'll come out. But aside from that, the Republicans have blood on their hands as much as the Democrats do. This is not a two-party or a bi-party issue. This is not a Republican versus Democrat issue. This is a good versus evil issue. This is a right versus wrong issue. And every single person, whether Republican, Democrat, Libertarian, Independent, whatever, if you are silent on the issue of abortion, or if you are pro-abortion, or if you're silent on the issue of homosexual marriage, then you are part of the problem, and you are facilitating the destruction, the very destruction of this country. And you are to blame, and you should be ashamed of yourselves. There is no two-party system in America before. The right-left paradigm has been perverted beyond belief. It's out the door. There's a one-party system, and that one party is the globalists, is the bankers. The bankers are running this country. They're getting us into wars. And you know what else? We will be in war. We will be at war in Syria. That's a done deal. That's a done deal.
It's been a done deal for the last 18 months. I mean,
well,
really,
and you know who's going to get us into this war?
It is our own doing.
Great Britain.
It is Saudi Arabia.
Yes.
It is the agenda of the globalists, these international unelected bankers that rule countries through the control of their money. The famous quote from one of the Rothschilds, in the 1800s was, "I care not who makes the laws of a nation. Give me the control of issuing the currency." And
but see, we've gone down, and this brings us back. And I know that I've dominated the entire first hour, and I apologize, but I got to say this.
You did.
This brings us to where we're at today. The spiritual bankruptcy of this country. The fact that we have kicked God out of every part of our lives. And not only that, if we haven't done it ourselves, we haven't spoken up about it. And you know what? I'm as guilty as anyone else. But that's going to stop right now. Because if you don't stand for something, you stand for nothing. And if you are accepting of the crime, then you are as guilty as the criminal. And if you accept tolerance just for the sake of tolerance, and you tolerate evil, then what are you doing? But you're embracing evil. And I'm not trying to preach. All I'm saying is, look, you know what we need to do? Here's how we can solve this. Each of us put our egos at the door. Leave our egos outside the door. Let's get into a room. The like-minded people. Let's eke out a plan. Let's make a plan. Let's work our plan, and let's go make plans to expose and defeat these people. Now, we might not win the war. We might win a few battles. We might not win the battles, but we're going to ultimately win the war according to the Bible.
We're going to win the war if we're on the right side, which is the side of the Lord Jesus Christ. That's guaranteed. It's written, it's sealed, and it's finished.
That's right.
There's no debating it. There's no overtime like a football game. There's no question to what will happen when the end does come.
And I'll tell you something, and I truly believe this. I believe today, as we approach the Christmas, I truly believe that Christmas, folks, celebrate the birth of Jesus this year.
Every day?
Well, I know, but celebrate Christmas this year with your family. Because I really believe, Joe, that this is probably one of the last Christmases, probably the last Christmas, that we are going to look back on and say,
yeah, I agree with you.
That was the last one.
Is a possibility that things could never be normal again, with almost $17 trillion of debt, the new taxes coming in, the martial law being implemented with the police state. Who knows, when families will be able to gather again and travel freely to do so. Who knows the next time you'll be sitting around the dinner table with your family. And one of the things on Thanksgiving we always used to pray about at my grandmother's house was that we were all alive again that year. Who knows who won't be there next year?
And for what reason?
Right. And, this, whether the economy collapses in a year or 2 years, it's going to collapse. There's going to be these hard times that come. There's no way to avoid it.
Watch March, folks. And we'll be getting into
March.
Watch March, about the March of 2013. And we'll be getting into that, too. You talk about an economic collapse. I do believe that Well, it's not just my belief. I mean, I'm just parroting some sources as well. March seems to be the time when things are going to really take a turn. And well, I'll tell you what, this and more take a turn.
For what?
Well,
worse for the worse.
Take a turn. Okay, yeah, that's when we.
I mean, really,
that's when we hit bottom. I mean, that's when things are going to actually have to change.
We don't want to see rock bottom in this country.
Well, we're going to see.
We live too comfortably. People will not.
That will change. You know that's going to change. And see,
we have to talk about that. I mean, in depth, and we still have to put together that show with the gentleman who called on nutrition, on
there's a lot
proper
of
things to eat.
Yes,
that's a part of it, because when things like this happen, we're going to need to be in shape. We're going to need to be healthy, and we need to even start now. You know,
but look, and I know there are a lot of people who listen to this program who are infirmed. We will not, and I think some people can attest to the fact that we will not leave you behind. I know that some listeners will attest to that fact. We will not leave you behind. I think we've demonstrated that, and that's all I'm going to say about that. But we are all in this together, whether you're infirmed, whether you are healthy, whether you are marginally healthy. We're in this together, and we're not going to let you fight or be alone. You might feel like you are, but don't let. I mean, if you feel like you are right now, no, you're part of this family now.
Yeah.
And we're all in this together. And I know we're up against the break. You're listening to the Hagmann and Hagmann Report.
You know, I just want to say this, about us being a family. It really, truly is just like a family. I enjoy coming to this show just as much as, listeners who come to listen. I love the chat room, interacting with the people in it, hearing from people on the phones, all the different countries people listen from, all the different guests that help people with individual issues. It is wonderful. It is the best part of my day, and I hope it's yours too. Folks, we'll be right back. You're listening to the Hagmann and Hagmann Report this Monday, December 17th, 2012.
Survival of the fittest. In any and all situations, survival is your number one priority. That requires being tough and thinking smart. And the folks at Freeze Dry Guy are going to help you do just that. They have the long-range patrol ration entrees, what they call the Brick Pack. When you're in survival mode, it is absolutely the best item for your survival pack or bug-out bag. You can go farther, faster, and carry more food with the LRP cold weather ration entrees. Not only do these long-lasting, durable entrees help sustain you or your family through the harshest environment or situation, they are by far the most delicious of their kind. No contest. With a variety of tasty entrees, you can't beat the LRP Brick Packs. Let Freeze Dry Guy help you in your survival situations. Go to freezedryguy.com. That's freezedryguy.com. Or call 866-404-3663. That's 866-404-FOOD.
Hi, folks. Doug Hagmann here. You might know me as the co-host from the Hagmann and Hagmann Report, or as a frequent guest on Coast to Coast AM with George Norrie. If you're like me, you're tired and confused over today's headlines. You just don't know where to turn for accurate, concise information about really what's going on, what's truly going on in today's society. If you don't know where to turn for accurate, well-researched, and properly vetted news, I've got a suggestion. In fact, it's a requirement. Bookmark Canada Free Press. That's CanadaFreePress.com on the Internet. It's just not for Canada. It's for news across the world. Judy McLeod, founding editor, has put together a vast array of talented writers like Kelly O'Connell, Daniel Greenfield, Dr. Eilena Johnson-Powell, a lot of guest columnists, very talented writers. Folks, that's Canada Free Press at CanadaFreePress.com. Now mobile friendly. Follow on Facebook, because without America, there is no free world.
Hold on to your seat. The Hagmann and Hagmann flight is now taking off. Doug and Joe Hagmann have cleared the runway of TSA agents, jihadists, political crackpots, and global elitists. Now get ready for some real news. Here they are, Doug and Joe Hagmann.
And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to hour number 2 of the Hagmann and Hagmann Report this Monday, December 17th, 2012. We are only 4 days away from the end of the world if you are a Mayan calendar believer.
So don't pay your mortgage, and certainly you don't have to make any tax appointments.
It's not the end of the world. The good aliens are going to save us and wipe out the New World Order. Or there's going to be a new level of consciousness where people are going to ascend.
Yeah.
And the rest of
there's a lot of
the dummies like us are going to be here. Yeah. The ancient astronaut theorist on A&E or History Channel or whatever. You know, they're in their spacesuits getting ready to go.
Well, remember, it brings back shades of, remember the people in purple that, I think it was a Hale-Bopp comet that went over.
One thing that worries me is, will there be mass suicides like we saw with other events similar to this?
You know what? If I recall correctly, I think even Art Bell was blamed in part for that mass suicide. Well, I don't recall the name of that. It was Hale-Bopp and was it Marshall, somebody or other that was dressed in purple, all laid out, and
they had Nike shoes on.
Yeah, it was a strange thing, but see, that's part of the deception.
Yeah.
But that said,
we're going to get into the Connecticut shootings, but first I want to play an audio clip here. It's 43 seconds long. It's about something we mentioned last week, about your appliances watching you. I have this clip.
Well, you know what,
and also a clip. CIA admits using news to manipulate the USA since 1975.
Wait, before you play those clips, something you mentioned before. I'm going to mention this now, and then we can talk about this later. During the break, just a fantastic person. I cannot tell you how great this gentleman is, and a good friend. And he said, "Hey, you know, don't forget, there's something that's being blocked out of the news." And he said, "Make sure." And Joe, right before the program, told me this. And I don't know if it went over my head or if I just tune Joe out sometimes. Maybe I do. But he said, "Don't forget, you know, for all the talk about the shooting in Connecticut, you remember the mall shooting in Oregon? You know what stopped that?"
Yep.
What?
I'm pulling up the article right here, but what happened was there was a shooting at a mall, and a person with a concealed carry weapon. I read it was a woman, but you said it was a man.
I just saw the. I don't have the. I just saw the beginning of the. Yeah, YouTube or the video.
A person with a concealed. Okay, a man tries to shoot everyone at the Hobbit movie. An off-duty woman police officer shoots him, avoiding total disaster.
So, see, folks,
2 people were hospitalized after a gunman chased terrified restaurant patrons into the lobby of the Santa Cruz Mayan 14 movie theater during a showing of The Hobbit last night, which would have been Friday night.
Okay.
As 1200 WOIA News reports, police detectives and sheriff's investigators say the incident started in the China Garden restaurant on Southwest Military Drive about 9 p.m. Sunday, when an employee of the restaurant walked in looking for a woman. He opened fire, shooting one man in the chest before Antu says an off-duty sheriff's deputy who was working security at the theater shot him once. The officer involved, she took the appropriate action to keep everyone safe in the movie theater, and they remain safe because of that.
And the bottom line,
remove her and the gun from the equation.
You could have had
another mass
carnage. Carnage. That's right. So, see, the people who argue against gun ownership and against having concealed weapon permits, how much more tragic could that have been? But we'll talk more about that later in the program. So let's get to the clips
this clip here I'm going to play. We talked about new TVs, VCRs, digital video, DVR boxes that are watching you. The CIA, Leon Panetta came out and said, or General Petraeus said that dishwashers light bulbs are spying on you. Well, this is what Verizon is doing. Here you go.
Here we go.
Talk about interactive TV. Verizon not only wants to provide your cable television service, but also stick around and observe everything you do while watching TV. The company filed a patent for a set-top box that uses, quote, a depth sensor, an image sensor, an audio sensor, and a thermal sensor to record what you're doing so it can target you with specific advertising. As an example, Verizon notes the DVR box would send an ad for marriage counseling to an arguing couple, or ads for a romantic getaway, or a commercial for contraceptives to a couple cuddling up. And we all thought Google ad targeting crossed the line.
Oh, my word. No, just, okay, folks, close your eyes for a second, unless you're driving, in which case, try not to do that. But close your eyes and imagine you're with your wife or your husband on the couch and you're having this intimate moment. And, of course, Bonanza, rerun of Bonanza's on television, because that's,
Yeah.
Okay, but imagine that, and then all of a sudden you and I know this is a stretch, but you hear from the digital box or from the television, hey, close your robe. I can see it. Close your robe. Hey, you, close your robe.
Well, think about it. All of these devices, these electronic devices we have are transponders. They're transmitters of information.
I know.
So as easy as it is to receive the information, it is just as easy to, send information, even unknowingly, through your phones, your computers, your TVs, like I said, your DVR boxes, your house phones. Who knows? They could have systems set up where your house is bugged with special wiring.
And we know. Look, we've done. Well, I shouldn't know. We haven't done. We don't know anything about this, but it's very possible that you can actually have like this microphone in your phone, or this ability where your phone actually acts as a microphone. The cradle, the headset. For example, your phone would never ring, and yet they could pick up. Whoever might be listening could pick up the conversation in the room, and you would never know it.
Yep. I want to play this news clip, and then we're going to get into, we were going to concentrate on the Connecticut shooting.
Blowback. Please.
Because we have confirmed, we have a lot of crazy reports that we have to go through. We have to discern to see if they're accurate or not. Things that have been taken down off the web that we were able to grab screen captions of before they were taken down.
Plus we're going to be talking about and remind me too about Plan A and Plan B, because that figures into this as well. You'll just remind me about that.
Yeah, and I'm talking about. We have a screen caption. One of the victims, allegedly a lady by the last name of Soto. There was a Facebook page created the 10th of December titled "R.I.P. Something Soto," and you can tell that it was not changed from the URL. Because the URL says RIP, and it was created 4 days before the shooting.
Yeah, that's odd, and we have to investigate or talk about that, and we have to dispel some rumors, because there are some rumors out there being floated intentionally to create some problems.
Here is a 3-minute audio clip about the CIA admitting using the TV and mainstream news to manipulate the masses of the United States. This is from 1975.
I thought that it was a matter of real concern that planted stories intended to serve a national purpose abroad came home and were circulated here and believed here, because this would mean that the CIA could manipulate the news in the United States by channeling it through some foreign country. Now, we're looking at that very carefully.
Do you have any people being paid by the CIA who are contributing to a major circulation American journal?
We do have people who submit pieces to American journals.
Do you have any people paid by the CIA who are working for television networks.
This, I think, gets into the kind of getting into the details, Mr. Chairman, that I'd like to get into in executive session.
At CBS, we had been contacted by the CIA. As a matter of fact, by the time I became the head of the whole news and public affairs operation in 1954, the ships had been established, and I was told about them and asked if I'd carry on with them.
We have quite a lot of detailed information, and we will evaluate it, and we will include any evidence of wrongdoing or any evidence of impropriety in our final report and make recommendations.
Do you have any people being paid by the CIA who are contributing to the national news services, AP and UPI?
Well, again, I think we're getting into the kind of detail, Mr. Chairman, that I'd prefer to handle in executive session.
Senator, do you think that you named the news organization in your final report?
That remains to be decided.
I think it was entirely in order for our correspondents at that time to make use of the CIA agent chiefs of station and other members of the executive staff of CIA as sources of information which were useful in their assessments of world conditions.
Would you say that continues today?
All right. If you're not familiar with that, so that's from 75 that Joe brought up. If you're not familiar with the Church Committee, the Church Commission, whatever you want to call it, United States Senate, a select committee to study governmental operations with respect to intelligence activities. This is a U.S. Senate committee chaired by Senator Frank Church, hence the name, back in 1975. Now, this was a precursor to the Senate Select Intelligence Committee. The committee investigated the tactics done by the CIA. And the reason this is important for today, okay? Now, by the way, this happened as a result of or along with the FBI, after certain activities had been revealed through Watergate. Now, see, here's the thing, folks.
The Watergate, the connections
even to today.
JFK.
It's a JFK.
The Bushes.
And I was talking to Patriot John who has a radio show, every Saturday night earlier today, and we were talking, and the only advice we were talking back and forth about the various things, about various events from 9/11 to the shooting. And here's my view of things. If you really want to get an accurate view, don't look at like 9/11, for example, or Oklahoma City, or this shooting even, or Watergate as isolated incidents. Look at this as one long, unending, continuing course of criminal conduct, one big crime scene, if you will. But see, even back in 75, and especially back then, and there are many people that were really hacked off over Frank Church, and I mean really upset, made very angry over this hearings and with the results of the hearings. And you have to understand too, because a lot of good people were thrown under the bus, but and some of the matters, and by the way, just give you an idea of the scope on this committee. There were plans to investigate. There were plans to investigate the assassination of foreign leaders, including the luminary Patrice Lumumba of the Congo. And that might sound familiar, Patrice Lumumba. Well, there's a Lumumba school in a communist school, very, very friendly with Bill Clinton, by the way. But nonetheless, yeah, go ahead.
There's somebody mentioned in the chat room, Project Monarch.
Yes.
And It's a super soldier program, and this is something that Russ talked about.
Yes.
It involves ritual child abuse, aliens, mind control, UFOs, secret bases, super soldiers, MI6, and more.
And boy, we could really go out on a limb by talking about that, but just understand this: there are things that are out there that this is what I was told, and without going into like this conspiracy area. I mean, it's not conspiracy; it's true. But we have a hard time talking about convincing other people that the economy is bad, for crying out loud. And you're going to start talking about. You're going to start talking about
you should have
some
heard
of these other things.
Yeah, you should have heard some of the radio, them like talking heads on Fox Radio to wherever, Bloomberg, what they were saying, about the shooter. And I even heard one host say that there were some weird inconsistencies, but that doesn't mean that there's a conspiracy.
But to see, okay,
it's true that
I might as well bring up go on.
It's true that a few weird coincidences doesn't automatically make it a conspiracy. But when you have evidence, that kind of proves that way of thinking that theory is correct or accurate, it's not a conspiracy theory anymore. It's fact.
No.
So,
but see, ladies and gentlemen, and this is something that I know. I know because I live this too. I know that you're out there listening to this program and you're saying, well, okay, this doesn't add up and that doesn't add up and this is really strange and boy, the timing of this is odd. And then we look at this and there's 2 shooters and there's suddenly 3, then there's 2 detained and then things change. Okay, you attempt to, at that point, like analyze all the information you have, and then you sit down and you read the headlines over the weekend and even into today, and you see where they're taking this. You see where the media is taking this. You see where the people who control the media are taking this. So then you sit down with your husband or your wife and you say, honey, look, I just got a bad feeling about this. It's just too convenient, isn't it? Look at all these shootings. Well, that Oregon Mall shooting, gee, that didn't work out too well. But now this, okay, and once you start walking on that ground, on that grass, the turf of that level of fringe, I suppose, or you start walking into those tall weeds of obscurity, your husband or wife might look at you and say, man, you know what? We got to up your medication. But see, that's that normalcy bias that everyone is grabbing onto. And I mean, there is a death grip right now, a death grip by people onto the normalcy bias. And a refusal to even remotely consider that the shooting in Colorado or Connecticut could have been set up. Because that could be plan B to the mall shooting, which was plan A, didn't work out well, so there's plan B. Because one thing I was told by a gentleman which I respect and admire and I know is got his finger on the pulse of all of the truth of what's going on. See, when things are planned, they just don't go out with one plan. There's a plan and a backup plan. There's a redundancy built in there. Now, knowing that, is that the case with Connecticut? Look, we don't know. But to discount that possibility, isn't that just as bad as to grab onto a conspiracy theory where there's no proof? Don't we want the truth? I mean, that's all we want. We want the truth. We don't want anything else. We don't need hype. We don't need the hype. We just want the truth. Whatever it is. We're big. We're adults. We can handle the truth.
We should be able to.
Yeah. So let's get to, just like 9/11.
As long as it's the whole truth.
Well, exactly. But just like 9/11, we are adults here. We can handle the truth. But Now, it might anger us, it might drive us to action, and perhaps that's a problem with the people behind this that are orchestrating. Do not doubt for 1 minute, folks, that there are people orchestrating, and not only orchestrating before, but after exploiting the events afterwards.
I mean, just one of the greatest examples of exploiting a false flag, proven false flag set up by our own government, is the Christmas Day bomber. Muttalib.
Yes.
He was put on a plane by a U.S. government agency with detonatable explosives that he tried to light.
How'd that work out for him?
Michael Chernoff, owner and Rapiscan, sold millions of dollars worth of body scanners to airports right after that happened.
And I will say this: in every instance in every case, in every event, in everything that happens, ask yourself, whether it's a war on a larger scale or a shooting or even a crime, who benefits? Ask yourself who benefits. And adjacent or kind of accompanying that, follow the money. Because two things, who benefits and follow the money. And you will more than likely find the truth. And believe me, look, there are psychos out there, the absolute unpredictable psychotic lunatics that will, I remember we had a murder in an Amish area.
School shooting.
The Amish this guy gutted his wife. I mean, like a deer. Okay, now look. And by the way, that guy's out of prison right now. So imagine that. But that happened like 10 years ago. He killed his wife with a knife and then actually disemboweled his wife in this Amish community. Yeah, there's evil out there. There are events out there that are due to somebody snapping and their mind just going nuts. And it doesn't mean that everything is a conspiracy, but look, those things that are, let's recognize them for what they are, and don't deny. And see, just because you don't want your reputation to be tarnished, just because, my goodness, if I say that, then you know what? I'll bet you that Coast to Coast won't call me, and for me to comment on the news, and all that would be so terrible. Or Fox, they won't touch me because I suggested. See, people are doing this. It's happening on the right, especially on the right.
Yeah,
they're doing this.
They have to. But a funny thing, on a lighter note, driving home the other day from the show, we had a commercial on our local station that plays Coast to Coast. And since that day, I've heard it probably 100 times. They play a clip of George Norrie asking a question and you answering it as the commercial.
Yeah, I got to tell you something. Okay, I mean,
it's pretty neat.
Yeah, the first time I heard this, I mean, my wife and I were driving down the road and we're listening to some AM station and this commercial for Coast to Coast comes on and suddenly it's my voice on the radio.
Yeah,
and I'm thinking, was that? First of all, I thought, was that me? And then I'm thinking I'm hearing voices in my head, really. And my wife looks at me and like, what was that? Because I mean, yeah, look, you sign papers when you go on that they can do whatever they want to, they can use your voice or whatever. And so, yeah, and it's really weird because you're driving. Like I was driving to the convenience store the other night. It was like 2 a.m. and Coast to Coast was on, and the local station played that again. And I'm thinking, my goodness, here I am driving my car. And I'm hearing my own voice. Yeah, so things are weird. I mentioned that because thank you for bringing that up. It is kind of funny. You'll hear me on certain, depending on your market area.
All right. I want to play this clip, 24 seconds. This is one eyewitness, what he saw in the Newton, Connecticut school shooting.
They did walk a guy out of the woods. I saw him walk a guy out earlier with handcuffs. He walked by us and said he didn't do it.
It was a grown man.
A grown man, yeah. He's sitting in the front of the police car over there now. So, I mean...
He didn't have a gun?
No, I didn't see any gun. Just had him handcuffed, and he walked by us and looked into parents' eyes and said, I didn't do it.
How was he dressed?
Camo pants with a dark jacket.
Now, I saw that video.
Yeah, I did too.
And I found that to be very interesting. Now,
well, there were other people in the woods.
Okay, but to take a man, what we know about the shootings, where the shooter was killed inside the school, correct? And they say that he used a rifle. Well, that rifle was in the trunk, locked in the trunk, from what we understand. So there's no way the reports of him using a rifle on the students are true if the rifle was locked in the trunk.
Well, okay, wait. See, here's the thing. You've got your first, and I, having lived in this world, your first report. I mean, I've been actually at the scene of things that have been taking place that have been reported on the news or were reported on the news, and it looked nothing like what, or it had nothing to do with what we were doing. I mean, it was almost like watching two different things. Certainly, it wasn't where I was at. The events that took place as a first responder, once again, before they were even called first responders. But so that said, we have to identify by at least two different sources the accuracy of the information. So the first question is, do we identify I suppose taking right from the beginning, was the proper person identified?
Well, they had two people that they said were possible suspects, Adam
and his brother.
124, 120.
Right.
We have two conflicting reports. As I sent you an email on this, I think Friday when this happened.
I got pretty close to 400 emails in the folder about this shooting.
Yeah, and I'm pulling this up right now here. What we have here is, it seems to be a whole, the Fox News has different reports, okay? There are different reports. I mean, one says the mother was a teacher at the school. Another says she was the volunteer, had nothing to do, it didn't work at the school. One says the guy was buzzed in. There's new security system at the school. He was buzzed in.
Yeah, we saw, and folks, you saw all these. What, did he shoot his way in? It's futile. It really is. In my view, it's futile to attempt to balance, okay, let me walk back for a second. What you've got to do is you've got to take the initial reports as they came in. You also, because there is as well audio of the police response, unedited audio on the internet that has been captured.
The scanner,
yeah. Right? Then you've got to take the eyewitness accounts, and eyewitness accounts are usually the least reliable of them all. I mean, trust me, they are. Because you can ask, and folks, I'm sure you've been in the position where you've seen something, and if you sit in a room, I mean, you'll have 5 different versions of what happened, and that's typical because eyewitness. I never rely on eyewitness accounts, at least not solely on eyewitness accounts. That doesn't mean to dismiss them. So we have to balance each and every one of these things. See, this is one thing too. Alex Jones, for example, God love him. He came out, he had immediate reporting and all this, but did you notice how it evolved, the reporting evolved, and did you notice how the facts changed and how you had to keep updating and changing, revising, moving, shucking and jiving and moving this way and that way to keep up with the information? Well, what we like to do, let's grab as much of the evidence, not proof, let's grab as much of the evidence as we can, documentation, and then as we'll go through it, piece by piece by piece by piece, at a time when we're not getting barraged by evolving pieces of evidence. That's why you're not going to see us really address this until we evaluate everything.
Yeah, we don't have the whole story, but we do have pieces.
That's right.
An example,
this is what we're talking
story right here from Yahoo News. Sandy Hook shooter, a mystery to neighbors and former classmates. Even to his neighbors, the gunman who massacred 26 kids and educators at the elementary school here still remains somewhat of a mystery.
Well,
I want to know more, said Len Storica, who lives less than half a mile from the shooter's house. Authorities say Adam Lanza, 20, killed his mother Nancy at their well-to-do home Friday morning before driving to Sandy Hook Elementary School, where he stormed in and committed one of the worst mass shootings in U.S. history. The victims were 20 first graders and 6 staffers, including a principal.
Right.
Adam Lanza's parents divorced a few years ago. And it goes on to they say about how their family, but the neighbors, the police, neighbors said about Adam Lanza, when asked about Adam Lanza, a lady named Megan said she was a classmate of the shooter from kindergarten through middle school. He wasn't like a weird kid or as a child. He was quiet. He didn't put off a friendly vibe, but she said he was one of the smartest students in school.
Okay.
There is different theories about the parents. Was this a domestic thing? Was this, what was the motives behind this? But back to the rifle here. Police said Adam Lanza, dressed in all black, was armed with 2 handguns, a semi-automatic Bushmaster 223 rifle when he barged into the school. Now, the medical examiner said that all the victims were killed with this 223 rifle. Well, that's the rifle that was locked in the trunk of this guy's car.
But once again, I would caution everyone, because what happens is and I've fallen for this too. You get caught up in this, and you get caught up in the evolution of these stories.
Well, see, we haven't had time to go through all this information and discern everything. I know you had a busy weekend.
But I've got 400 emails, over 400 emails about this
information.
It takes time.
Yeah, and we've been going through it. I've been going through it. You've been going through it. And there are odd things. There are odd facts that are part of, involved here. And some of the questions people are asking. This Lanza, the shooter, was he falsely identified as the shooter? His Facebook profile was erased immediately.
Well, there were 2 Facebook profiles. One that had one poor guy. It's my understanding, and I was able to confirm this to a satisfying degree. There was one poor guy with the same name that was getting hit. He had a Facebook profile, same name, but it had nothing to do with this. Now,
this is one of the weirdest.
But I've got to say this, okay? At face, that's the way it appears, and I've not found anything to counter that. However, I'm not discounting anything, but remember how many misidentifications there were in the last several mass shootings.
Yeah,
that's what we've got to do. The reports of 3 shooters.
Well, there's a video that I posted in the chat room. It is called the Sandy Hook Elm 3 Shooters, and it talks about the brother, the kid who was the shooter who was dead in the school, and then the man who was arrested and put in handcuffs and put into a squad car.
Yeah, but
one of the biggest
be careful, because there are people that are just innocent people that will get handcuffed and tossed in the back of a. When I say innocent, they have nothing to do with anything. Just happen to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. They'll look at you, and because of the unfolding, and especially the serious nature of the situation, they'll toss you in the back of the car until they figure out what's going on. You've got to understand that does happen.
Yeah. Joni Didonto, the principal's secretary, called in sick that day, Friday. Something she rarely does, apparently. They say here that, so obviously she must have been pretty ill, but she did an interview that day, of all days, emphasizing the strange coincidence. A child asserts that, that's a separate part, but yeah, this secretary, the principal secretary, called in sick that day, yet went on to do an interview later in that day. First-hand reports from children. They say one child asserts that he saw a man pinned down to the ground with handcuffs on. Again,
I remind you
that the police took a suspect into custody.
Right.
If it was the shooter, how did he then kill himself? That's the question, you know.
Look, here's what I'm more concerned about, folks, and this is the different angle that we have to. Let us work on the particulars. Let us evaluate the very particulars. Give us a couple of days, because we're not going to come out and say, well, this, you know, it looks like this, or there's 2 or 3 shooters, and that's irresponsible. We will work on this and evaluate this, but here's where the other angle that we have to come in on. Drudge Report. If you looked at the Drudge Report throughout the weekend, the upper left section was full of these blurbs, links to different places. Well, number one, and this is what I want everyone to be very cautious of, the people, the powers, the media, the progressives, the communists, the one world order people, they're going to come after you for being a prepper. You see, the question initially, and a legitimate question, was, where did this teacher, this blonde, nice divorcee woman that lived in this nice home, and, you know, where did she get this arsenal of weapons, or the 4 guns arsenal? It's like she was running some sort of National Guard armory. Well, lo and behold, you've got the UK paper, and this is important. The UK paper coming out and calling her a prepper. Why is it important, the UK paper? Well, it's not coming from the U.S. media here in this case. There is a reason why it's not coming in there. There's an agenda behind this, and it has to do with Great Britain and the United Kingdom and their involvement here in this country. But that said, they painted this woman they are saying this woman is a crazy survivalist prepper. Now,
did they use the words crazy?
Pretty much, yes, as a matter of fact. And then that also, yes, in the Sun, and the tabloid The Sun, and then I think the Globe and Mail. But that said, the mother of the gunman was a proud survivalist preparing for economic collapse. Okay, that's what was said verbatim.
What about the interesting note of people saying the connection to the LIBOR scandal?
Right. Well, okay, now my question to you is, can this be proven? Well, the father was allegedly working for a firm that was, and it was reportedly on track to schedule in the LIBOR scandal, which relates back to the Holmes shooting, the Batman shooting, whose father was also in a position to be testifying in the LIBOR scandal. And folks, are you familiar with is everyone listening to this broadcast familiar with the LIBOR scandal and its significance to what's going on with our world economy? If not, let me just briefly go over this with you. There's a series of fraudulent actions connected to the London interbank offered rate. Now see, London pops up. UK pops up again. Where's this coming from? LIBOR is the average interest rate that's calculated through a number of things, through a number of banks in London. It's kind of like fixing the interest rate. So if you go to buy a car tomorrow, it's set by LIBOR, basically. That's LIBOR is this London interbank offered rate, and that's what determines what you pay for your car interest tomorrow when you go to buy it, or next day or whatever. Well, the scandal with LIBOR said that there was interest rate fixing and collusion among these banks, and collusion into this country. And LIBOR is used in our derivatives market. There was an attempt to manipulate LIBOR and an attempt to manipulate U.S. derivatives market, and thus violating American law and such. And, you know, mortgages, student loans, car loans, all these things are all connected to LIBOR. Everything goes back to the UK. Everything goes back to the UK, but in particular, LIBOR is the London Interbank Offered Rate. So what we have is two guys, the fathers of both, allegedly fathers of both suspects here, mass shooting suspects, who are supposedly scheduled to testify before this investigative body over this LIBOR scandal. That's why it's so important, and it's huge. And as a matter of fact, we can also throw in, remember that nanny that was killed?
Yeah, we had Joe from Realist News on.
Right.
Told us all about that, how the story changed. First, the mother said she came in, saw the children dead, and the nanny on the ground with her throat cut changed her story later to saying she saw the nanny cut her own throat. Now that is not something you forget. That is not something that
you don't miss it. Right. So, but that was connected with another financial scandal.
Yeah, a $43 trillion lawsuit.
Lawsuit.
That a CNBC executive aired an article or story on and was taken down immediately because his children were murdered right after he aired it.
So, what's the truth here? Well, and I've watched the story evolve, and I've watched these. And one thing I do watch is people who come out so strong against, oh, it's not true. It's not true. Absolutely not true. Oh. And I have several people that I do know that are associated with misinformation and disinformation campaigns. I do watch what they do, and I've got them under basically electronic surveillance to the extent where that I watch them and I watch how strongly they object to information. And when they object so strongly, then I'm able to gauge whether we're getting close. And I see this in one of the, since I mentioned the left sewage pit, Democratic underground, I'll mention the right objectionable pit of political perversity, the Free Republic. Well, there's this, so if you can't prove it, it didn't happen. Well, here's the thing. There's a difference between having, there's a difference between having this information and be able to prove it and just having this information. Can we prove it? Yeah, it's going to be a stretch. But if this is true, and we have on both occasions, these people the fathers are in fact are in that position where if there were hearings to be held, and we're not even sure there were hearings to be held before an investigative body. If there were, yes, they would have been in a position to testify. But see, here's the problem. There's even no verification that the hearings were scheduled. So, is it true? Well, it would appear to be true if there was in fact an investigative body that did exist overtly. But if it's in camera or out of public purview, then we won't know that. But just by virtue of the fact that it's a possibility here, then what I'm saying to you is this is one of the bigger things that should not be discounted. We may never be able to prove it, but I'll tell you what, this is one of those things where I would never discount this, because this is huge in terms of the effect it could have on our society and on our money. And the people involved in this, Joe, you were talking about that girl that burned in her car.
Ashley Turton.
Yeah. You were talking about and there were others as well associated with the very financial schemes.
Yeah.
And where are we now? We are in this financial crisis.
Yeah, they kill so many people for intimidation reasons.
Yeah,
for speaking out, they kill people's families for doing that. They play by a set of rules, and if you break their rules after making an agreement with them or having an understanding...
We are under the thumb of a mob. In fact, these people who are running this or who are engaged in this activity put the mob and the Sopranos and the Godfather people to shame. They do. At least, and I'm sorry if I offend anyone, but at least the Sopranos and the mob, at least they had a code of ethics, as warped as it might have been and might be. These people are just downright satanic and Luciferian. And you might think, well, boy, Doug, you're really off the reservation, man. You better take your your pharmaceuticals and go to bed and relax. But the truth is this: the truth is a lot stranger than fiction, and we are living in the Matrix right now. So when we're talking about being in a position right now, folks, where our dollar could be worth nothing in 4 months, are you calling me a conspiratorial nut when our dollar in 4 months could be worth nothing and we could be under a whole new economic system? Yeah, we watch on MSNBC, Fox, CNN, all the major networks that
we're a slave to the World Bank.
But we're recovering. There's a recovery.
Yeah.
Oh.
If you're in the government.
Oh, everything is fine.
There's a recovery.
See, if you think it's bad, if you're like this mother that was murdered by this son, but if you're Mrs. Lanza and you have some food and some guns put aside for an economic collapse, you will be demonized, and I guarantee you will be mocked and made fun of, as this woman is, and you will be demonized in the press. And see, this is part of their agenda. This is like the trifecta of tragedies. You've got, and I don't believe me. I pray for the young people, for the innocents, the blood of the people who died, the children who died. My heart, believe me, so I'm not making light of that. But what I'm saying to you is, you've got to look beyond that and see what's going on, because if in fact there is something more going on here, then it's necessary to expose it, even at the risk of looking like a lunatic.
Hey, who cares how we look? Like I've said this before, we only have an obligation to make one person happy with our actions, with our thoughts, and that is the Lord. It doesn't matter what the people of this earth think about us. We do not need to have favor with men. Favor with men is not favor with God.
And I got to tell you something. If the truth as it stands, and you're right, Joe, and you're right, because see, if the truth as it stands, if we bring the truth to the table, and it offends, or if it's out there too far, and that costs, it costs us, well, geez, you won't be invited on this program or that program. See, that's how a lot of people, and more people on the right than on the left feel. Then, because, you can't talk about the eligibility issue because that would marginalize your credibility, so don't talk about that.
What really bothers me is the 9/11 issue.
Or even the 9/11 issue.
Like in Benghazi. Look how the Fox News is digging for every single crumb of truth about Benghazi, yet
they're not digging, but I understand that.
Touch 9/11. Doesn't matter what you're talking about. You mentioned the possibility of it being, it is a conspiracy anyway, by the nature of the crime. 19 men, apparently with the ringleader across the world, 4 different planes. Obviously, it was a conspiracy to begin with.
By definition, it was a conspiracy.
If you believe the official story. But just the way that they are hounding the Benghazi story. But
as well they should, by the way.
It's selective reporting.
Okay, I agree with you on that, but I will say this: Fox News dropped the ball many, many times. Fox News has not reported I would say percentage-wise, maybe 30% of what's available for Benghazi. Fox News is in the tank as well, like every other organization. The old media they're in the tank too. Benghazi is so important because it does provide a window of the agenda of what's taking place today. Because Benghazi will tell you that we will be at war, that we are being dragged into World War III. That is important. But 9/11 is important too. You're right. I mean, it's out of balance. But do not think. I mean, we can't compare them in that way. But we can. I understand what you're saying. But folks, look. We are being lied to every time we turn on the television set. Every time we listen to a normal newscast, we're being lied to. And if it's not a lie of commission, it's a lie of omission. And if it's not a big lie, it's a little lie. Or if it's not a little lie, it's just a political bias that leads you down to a different path.
Mm-hmm. And
that's the problem. We have to take the whole truth. And somebody asked me a question. Let me see if I can get to this.
And we're going to take calls.
Yes, at the next hour. What if the Connecticut shooting was designed to get the people apathetic to the idea of children dying? Well, at the same time, this was a psyop in support of a much larger operation that could be still in play. Let me read that again. What if the Connecticut shooting was designed to get people apathetic to the idea of children dying? Well, at the same time, this was a psyop in support of a much larger operation that could be still in play. I don't quite know how you would get the public apathetic to, or even insulated to the picture, the images of the death of children. Unless, of course, you live in the Middle East, and then that's just the way it is. But the theory behind this, maybe not the apathy, but I think the intent of the person asking the question here in the chat room. I see your intent, and I agree to some extent that what we're seeing is an operation, a larger operation. It is still in play. What we're seeing right now is parts of something much bigger. You've got to understand that. This shooting is part of something much bigger. It's part of a continuing course of conduct. And you might not agree with that. You might think, well, that's really minimizing, that's really an affront to the victims of the shooting. I'm not trying to be at all irresponsible or... I mean, my heart goes out to the children and their families.
Yes,
but
we can't not expose or dig because I mean what's done is done, and the people who did it are apparently dead or in jail or who knows. But there is still
but there's more
contradiction
to be done. No,
there's information out there that needs to be gathered. Needs to be discerned. We need to find out the truth about what really happened, and the purpose of all these conflicting news reports
don't feed the beast.
Confuse the
That's
truth.
Right. See, but see, the people who are throwing the information out there without having verification, without researching the information, and without verifying things, they're feeding the misinformation beast. So, and understand the tactics here, the tactics of the people involved behind the curtain are doing this. You've got to understand their tactics. It's to. And I heard Steve Quayle when he was on our program. He had he had said there was a sentence there where you marginalize. It was in effect how to marginalize someone.
Yeah.
But this is what, see, you cannot allow yourself to be marginalized. You have to wait. You have to evaluate everything and then come out and say, okay, this is what we know.
Yeah, you need to have your facts straight if you're going to get into a debate, especially with any kind of person who is a paid informant, talking head, FBI, COINTELPRO type infiltrator.
Because one word, for example, when we came out with the article on Benghazi, and I never I don't re-edit the articles, but I had described the CIA Operations Center as a consulate. I think it was the first article I did, and it was done in haste, and it was done without really. It was my fault. It was my slip up. Well, boy, try to walk that back, and see they will jump. The people who want to bury the truth will jump on stuff like that, and that's the way they will twist and turn and bend and convolute the truth. So to be responsible, we've got to wait until we can evaluate and analyze and verify every piece of the information. So when we come out and talk, our words are not used as a baseball bat to hit us on the head with. But bear in mind, one of the very big results of this, the America will be forever changed. Will be forever changed because of what happened in Newtown, Connecticut.
Yeah, I mean, they are really pushing the gun control issue. As we told you Friday, Bloomberg wants Obama to take immediate action with or without Congress. The Boston mayor wants the same thing. They are, left is mobilizing to politicize school shooting. Here we have CNN anchor Lemon goes on an anti-gun tirade, calls for assault weapons ban. We need to get guns and bullets and automatic weapons off the streets. They should only be available to police officers and to hunt Al-Qaeda and the Taliban, and not elementary school children.
There are people that want magazines limited to 5 rounds.
And he goes on to say this, yes, we need to address the mental health issue, but the mental health is, in this particular issue, let's not get it twisted, it is a secondary issue.
Of course.
If someone has a mental issue, did not have access to guns that should only be available in war zones, we would not be dealing with this, he responded.
But see,
this is completely backwards.
The gun regulation worked because this young man tried to buy a gun and he was refused. So, we've got the gun regulations in place, they worked.
And yeah, he goes on to say, who needs armor-piercing bullets to go hunting? Who needs assault rifles to go hunting?
You don't need to
protect yourself against a tyrannical government that is overreaching and is going to come and kill you, which is exactly what our government is on course of doing, as history is repeating itself once again, as we will be an example worse than any of the genocides in history, in my belief, as they will disarm this nation through violence or through intimidation and fear. Give us a call at 661-244-9839. We're going to come back and go to Jeff.
Are you sure? 9839?
9839. 661-244-9839. Give us a call. Let us know what you think about anything we've talked about or have not talked about. We'll be right back after these short messages. You're listening to the Hagmann and Hagmann Report this Monday, December 17th, 2012.
If you're stumped, you don't know what kind of gift to give to a friend or a loved one, I'm telling you, you must go to 4physics.com. That's the numeral 4, PHYSICS.com. This is your one-stop shopping palace. That's the only way I can put it. I could spend easily an hour on this website. Innovative, fun, educational. There are games, books, weather instruments, unique time-telling devices, jewelry, optical devices, laboratory equipment. Let me give you an example. We all know we can tell time with a sundial. You've seen those advertised. Did you know that you could tell time by the stars? At 4physics.com, you can buy a horologium nocturnum. This was a navigational device used in the 15th century by navigators at night to tell time by the stars. It's beautifully crafted in the shape of a pendant made of bronze and pewter or gold and silver. Absolutely a stunning gift. I would be proud to give it to anyone. You must go to 4physics.com. Even if you're not stumped, that's 4physics. That's the numeral 4, PHYSICS.com. It's your one-stop shopping palace. Any problems that you have, I don't know what to get Grandpa, I don't know what to get my loved one, that's unique, you will find it at 4physics.com. Please take my word for it. Go to the website, but give yourself a lot of time because you're not going to want to leave. 4physics.com.
Survival of the fittest. In any and all situations, survival is your number one priority. That requires being tough and thinking smart. And the folks at Freeze Dry Guy are going to help you do just that. They have the long-range patrol ration entrees, what they call the brick pack. When you're in survival mode, it is absolutely the best item for your survival pack or bug-out bag. You can go farther, faster, and carry more food with the LRP cold weather ration entrees. Not only do these long-lasting, durable entrees help sustain you or your family through the harshest environment or situation, they are by far the most delicious of their kind. No contest. With a variety of tasty entrees, you can't beat the LRP brick packs. Let Freeze Dry Guy help you in your survival situations. Go to freezedryguy.com. That's freezedryguy.com. Or call 866-404-3663. That's 866-404-FOOD.
Doug Hagmann. One guy that doesn't need a bullhorn to get your attention.
You want answers. I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to our third and final hour of this Monday edition of the Hagmann and Hagmann Report. I want to thank each and every one of you for joining us if you are listening live, and to those who are listening archive as well. Just a quick couple of announcements. If you missed some shows from last week, we had Russ Dizdar and Steve Quayle on Thursday. We had Pastor Lindsey Williams on Wednesday. And Sunday, last night, we had Henry Groover. It was an excellent show. I can't wait to put that video up on YouTube. I think people need to hear that. We'll put it on DVDs. We need to send it out to as many people as possible.
That was a truly spiritually moving episode. That with Henry Groover, and I've got to tell you, I've got so much respect for both Steve Quayle and Henry Groover. Henry Groover is a man who is just an amazing man of God. Wow.
We're going to go to the phones. I want to thank you guys for holding. I know we're going to go to Jeff first. He's been holding since the beginning of the show. Jeff from Chelsea, Massachusetts.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much, guys. Well, Doug and Joe, I met Henry Groover one time at a Prophecy Club conference. And me, Henry Groover, and a friend of mine, and the Prophecy Club staff and a few others, we had pancakes late at night right after he got done speaking. So that's my memory of him. Yes, you're right. He is a man of God. But as far as the subject is concerned, you know what? We know where this is going. I mean, now you guys are doing a bang-up job with this, but the mainstream talk show hosts, they are not nailing it. You know, this is heading for genocide. Once Obama bans firearms in the hands of American citizens, this is going to be black-on-white genocide, like in some third-world communist Muslim country. We know where this car is going. And I'll tell you what, the churches fell asleep. The blacks wanted Obama in for the bacon. So did the Hispanics. So did the Brazilians. The bacon. It's just that simple. Obama phone, Obama cash, and so forth. And we are completely screwed as a country. We're doomed. I mean, you know, this is Deuteronomy 28. I was reading Deuteronomy 28 this morning. Good chapter in the Bible to look up, and we have nobody else to blame for ourselves when the foreign troops start marching on our streets and bashing the heads of dissidents and critics in like these third world countries, and we are completely done. The title is appropriate. That's why I waited this long. And you know what, Henry Groover, I love when Henry Groover talks about cities that are magnets for judgment. God showed to me that Boston is one of those cities. I mean, and so forth. God bless you. I'll let you comment on all the points when I get off here. God bless.
Thanks, Jeff. As always, just a very, very polite caller. Very good, very well to the point. You know, I believe the ultimate objective with this shooting, with other shootings, there's a pattern here. Aside from the spiritual component, the absence of God, the absence of morality, the redefinition of evil and good and evil, and aside from the war in the heavens and that is manifesting itself here on earth, aside from that, which, well, that's a pretty big aside, I believe that it is, personally, it is Obama's bosses as well as Obama himself and the Clintons and the Marxist regime, the Fabian Socialists, the Communist Party, the SDS crowd, the
Democrat,
right, exactly, the Gramsci's, that the whole school of thought, the unions as well, the feminist movement. Yes, I said feminist movement, which is all part of a larger agenda. The communists that have been involved in our country since the beginning of the 20th century, or after the First World War, Second World War in particular, I should say. There's an agenda here and the agenda is not to fundamentally change the country, but to take it out. And see how they're going to take it out is they're going to foment this chaos to the point, and it's more than the black and white thing, Jeff. I would say it's all of a black and white thing, but
you know, one thing you want to do is never let a good crisis go to waste.
Yeah, that's old Rahm Emanuel, I believe, isn't that what he said?
Yeah, I have that audio clip on here forever. I'm not even sure. I don't remember taking it down. It's not up here, but
see,
yeah, they will not let it go to waste.
It's a bigger agenda, and it's an evolving crime scene. And you're right. You're right. It's that Hegelian dialectic at play. But it's the ultimate goal here is to strip us of our constitutional rights. And can you believe it, folks? Can you believe that the people on the right, the conservatives with a small c, maybe, they're saying that, yeah, maybe it's a good thing we limit this. Maybe it's a good thing maybe it's a good thing that we suspend certain Second Amendment rights. That's what some of the conservatives are saying. And is this out of a matter of guilt, or is this part of an agenda, or is this a matter of ignorance, or is this part of a bigger plan? It doesn't matter, but they're saying it. And see, we're losing the battle of it. We're losing the battle by attrition. And we are going to see. Here's the thing. There will be blood in the streets. There will be the blood of the tyrants and of the patriots in the streets. And I'm sorry to say that, but that's what is going to happen. They redefine or refine or restrict the rights under our Constitution and our Bill of Rights. There will be blood in the streets, and it will not be pretty. And I don't mean to scare people.
No, it's not. I mean, this is reality. This is happening every day.
And see, did you notice, have you felt, and be honest with us, listening tonight in front of your PCs or on your phone or on your radio, did you feel the change? Did you feel the palpable change after that mass shooting? If you didn't, you're not plugged in.
No, that's right. We're going to move on here to the phones. We are going to go to Pierre. Pierre, welcome to the Hagmann and Hagmann Report. What is on your mind this evening?
Evening, Doug. Evening, Joe. How are you guys doing?
Very well.
Yeah, I was listening to what you guys were saying about the shootings and how things are dark, and No, you're not fear-mongering or anything like that. I don't even like using that term because that's a politically correct term. You're not inciting any kind of revolution or fear in the people. This is reality. You're giving them a reality check. At least while they're getting it's good, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, thanks. Yeah, the only revolution we want to start is one of the soul, to awaken the soul.
But you know what? You mentioned something, and I'm glad you mentioned it. Here's what's going to happen, as I feel it's going to happen. Shows like this will be throttled back because they will say that we are inciting hate speech, and we will be throttled back, and we cannot allow it. I will go to jail before I shut up. And that's a promise to the listeners.
Well, let's hope it never comes down to that, because if you happen to go into the cage, you're not going to come out 9 times out of 10. Because if you're back there in a cage, they're going to silence you permanently. The whole point of what your forum is, like with Alex Jones, Greg Evenson, Steve Quell, and the countless others that are out there, you all have varying opinions, but if there's one thing I've learned out of listening to everyone, is that everyone's on the same sheet of music, at least in terms of alternative media. There's bad stuff is coming. Here's how it's coming. No matter how you look at it, it's going to come. You need to do something about it. But more importantly, for anyone who's listening, and I know there's millions of people out there hearing my voice right now, you need to pick a side. You need to pick a side, because there is no neutrality. Neutrality is already a side picked for the sheep to get slaughtered, or to betray those that you love the most, or what have you. Because we are in that age where your family, your friends will betray you. It's written in the scriptures. It's happening now. It's just not making news or media because it's all low-key stuff. This red list, blue list, green list thing is a reality check. You know, I know where I stand on that list, and I'll deal with it accordingly when the time comes. But, you know, we all need to wake up. You know, they're making this issue of the shooter's mother being a prepper and what have you. Sounds like good old-fashioned psyops to me. It sounds like it's nothing more than designed to give a black eye to the prep movement, because they've been trying to figure out how to do this for the longest time. You know, COINTELPRO, a lot of people don't know what that means. It's counterintelligence program. You get a highly trained operative or a group of operatives together that specialize in counterintelligence, and what they do is they infiltrate movements, like what we're talking about now. It could be in any other kind of group or what have you, like the old American Indian group. I think it was called AIM back in the day in the 1970s, I believe it was. American Indian Movement. Right. It was infiltrated by FBI COINTELPRO. And it was one of the most successful counterintelligence programs ran, because they brought down the Native American nation from trying to rise up again. I'm not sounding like I'm cheering it on, but an op was an op. It ran smooth, it ran efficiently, and he ended it. The point with this is you don't want that happening now. You can't afford to have it happen now. Now with all the assets in their disposal, technologically and militarily, even at the civil level, because you just don't know. Now, it sounds like, well, Pierre, they're inciting paranoia. No, I'm not. I'm giving you all the facts as best as I can give it, as much as Joe and Doug can give it, because this is reality. Reality is Homeland Security having 450 million rounds of hollow points. Reality is them getting another 750 million of the same ammo. Another reality, same department, 200 million of sniper rounds. Or the Social Security Administration getting 174,000 rounds of hollow points. Or how about the U.S. Forest Service getting at 1.85 thousand, then another 187,000. Okay? Or the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration getting 40,000 rounds of hollow points. Okay? Hollow point ammunition, real basics for everyone so you know. The Geneva Convention says that it's illegal to have on the field of battle. As a military veteran, no, I have never in my entire career ever fired hollow point rounds out of my rifle or my sidearm. It's not permitted. But yet, our nation's law enforcement agencies carry them. Okay? And these aren't wounds like Full Metal Jacket wounds. These things are designed to seriously inflict pain and make sure that you never function right proper again. They're complaining to us because we want to have semi-automatic handguns and get emergency food rations, whatever, but these guys are stocking up on ammunition like it's no tomorrow. The dots are all connecting, folks. Once they get to the point that they realize that they have curtailed the Second Amendment, because Lord knows they've already done the First Amendment, it's already been curtailed. People want, you got the Arab movement here in America talking about, hey, you guys got to stop this freedom of speech talk. This is bad. You need to have Sharia law. You need to look at Islam. And guess what? These bureaucrats and legislatures are looking at it. They're actually looking at that. But we can't even defend ourselves. We got schools where our own children are taught, hey, the Founding Fathers were terrorists. They were bad. Really? I remember these guys were heroes because they stood up against the tyranny of the crown. But it's funny, like you were saying earlier, which connects to the dots on what you were saying, Doug and Joe, about England, the UK, and it all comes back to them. Now, I'm not dumping on the people of the UK. I have friends there. I happen to like these people a lot. I really do like the UK. It's the elements within the country that have not given up their centuries-old, I guess, for lack of a better term, what is it, manifest destiny? Does that make sense? Of ruling. And so, once again, more influence of the crown, more influence on what needs to be done. Disarm America and you take the world. People gotta understand what I'm telling you. We are it. That is it. There is no other countries in the world that have a constitution like we have. There is no other country that has a document that gives you these rights and says that you earned it. These are your inalienable rights, and you're being taken away. And we talk about this every day, but no one does anything about it.
Well,
those who do try to do something about it, they get suppressed.
Pierre, let me chime in here, and folks, listen to what I'm about to tell you, because I think this is important. I think, Pierre, you touched on this. You know, we look at the courts in our country, in our Constitution. Right now, our courts are moving further and further away from interpreting the Constitution and more into the pattern of writing new laws. We're putting more and more pressure, there's more and more pressure being put on judges to quit being arbitrary and to cite legal precedent for their decisions, or better yet, to cite the Constitution as they've done in the past. But the response to this has brought about an even more dangerous sidestep to what's going well, let me cut to the chase here. What's going on is, for the first time in our history, our courts are citing foreign law as precedents. So that fertilizes the ground for what we are about to see here. And I'll just say this: in July of '06, the Gun Owners Foundation published a paper that was titled "Assessing the Threat to the Second Amendment Rights Posed by U.S. Or Second Amendment Rights posed by the U.S. Supreme Court's use of foreign law in constitutional interpretation." Sorry for that long thing, but that was the title of this paper. Now, here's the deal: the paper that was published in '06 by the Gun Owners Foundation, they took two cases, Roper versus Simmons and Lawrence versus Texas. The court relied on international law to sustain constitutional challenges. And see, here's what's happening. The United Nations now, they've been pursuing a goal of eliminating all private ownership of firearms worldwide. So if the court continues to base, and I'm talking about our Supreme Court, so if they continue to base their constitutional decisions on foreign laws, we're going to find our Second Amendment rights out the door, basically, done, over. And see, that's what is going on right now. You mentioned that, Pierre, about the Second Amendment and about the courts and such. That's what's taking place. So we're moving in a direction that world law and world governance which is a goal of the communists, is in fact going to trump our sovereignty.
It already has, though. That's the thing. It's already trumped us, and no one is seeing this except for the select few, being people like you and Joe, those that are in the chat room, and millions of other people that are out there. But it's not enough, Doug. That's the problem. There's not enough of a galvanized movement to get this thing kicking. Okay, yeah, gun sales are going up now because of the shooting, and people are becoming more aware. Still, it's not enough because we got to go beyond the Second Amendment here. What we're talking about here, literally, is the retaking of this government and making it back to what it should be. And there are those out there that will not permit that to happen. Period.
Which
then brings into the.
Yeah, exactly. No, you're right. Go on.
The crux of this whole thing, folks, and here it is, the scariest part of it all. You're going to have to make the choice: will you fight or will you not? Because that's what this is going to boil down to. We can fight peace with words. We can put legislation out. We can make the voices known. But at the end of the day, there are over 30,000 drones flying over the continental United States. Elements only knows there's one probably flying over my area now. I don't know if it has a Hellfire AGM-114 on it, and if they fired it, I'd probably be dead right about now. We don't know. That's the power that they have. Through that power comes the subtleness of fear.
Yes.
When you think about that, you don't want to say something. You start taking a step back and reevaluating. Maybe I should just shut my mouth and not do anything. Too late, folks. You're in it, or you're not going to do anything.
It's too late. You already have. I mean, look, the names, what's that? Santa made a list, checked it twice. You're already on the list, and that's, it's the way it is. You know. And here's something real quick. I'm going to diverge on this real quick because I know you got other callers. I do not want to take up the time here. One of the people in the Carrie by Grace wanted to know. She wanted me to put this out here. I posited in the forum of an alternative to MK Ultra, like with the shooter. My theory is this: with MK Ultra, you have to go through mind-altering drugs or psychotropic drugs, but you also have to physically undergo the orientation, for lack of a better term. What if, in this case, there was no orientation to undergo? What if the drugs that were taken, like SSRIs, those serotonin inhibitors, what if they automatically, over time, alter the way a person thinks? Now, folks, I'm going to go on a stretch with this, but I think what I'm going to say is making sense because we're seeing movies on it, and we know how movies are reality, but there is a thing called nanotech. And nanotechnology can be induced or introduced into a liquid form, injected into the body, designed to carry out whatever it needs to do to repair the human body and or alter its structure.
Yeah, nanotechnology is, sorry for interrupting you, I just wanted to add that it is a very complex science, but it can do many things. A lot of people don't know about it. And it can be very invasive. It can be very secretive. It can kill.
It can control. And yes, and see, this is where, and Pierre, look, we start talking about this, especially when the sting, and I don't know when the sting of what happened last week is going to go away. It may never go away, but and certainly the discussion of this is not meant at all to demean the serious tragedy of this, but you've got to have at some point intellectual discussion about the possibilities of this being an engineered event. Okay,
I completely agree with you.
Otherwise you're just reacting on emotion and not not on any intellectual level. Exactly. And even so that said. Okay, go ahead.
But here's my deal before I go. With what you just said, because you got to deal with it intellectually, not emotionally. Let's go with this. Well, let me posit this. What if, just what if, folks, say this let's say there was nanotech that was introduced with psychotropic drugs. Or maybe the psychotropic drugs didn't have that in it, but it was designed to trigger off via visual stimuli through images of violence. There's no big secret that kids play games. Hell, I play Call of Duty, but you don't see me going out there trying to blow anyone's brains out. You don't see me doing anything stupid, and I've been out in the field. I know what that's like. But I don't go out there and do that. But what if what he took and being exposed to that kind of medium triggered everything off that he needed to do? It would be almost like a really scary form of psychotropic Manchurian Candidate or sleeper cell. He was a ticking time bomb, and bam, there you go. Now, I'm not sure if any of you people seen people who've been on Prozac or any of these drugs. It's no joke, because when they don't take those drugs, if they miss even one day of taking it, oh my God. I mean, I had two good friends that were on that, and I remember one, when she didn't take it, I had to control her the entire night because she was an armed security officer like how I was at one time, and she wasn't on it. And she had a .40 caliber Smith & Wesson with PowerPoints in it, okay? That was no joke that whole day, because I had to think in my head, my God, if she flips, I'm going to have to take her down. Or if she draws on me, I'm going to have to take her down. But that's where I go with that theory. It was just
interesting. Wow.
We got to, like you said, we got to put what we can on the table.
Right.
Whatever. What was that old saying? Once you've eliminated the impossible, whatever is left, however improbable, must be the truth.
The old Sherlock Holmes quote. Yes,
it was, and it was also something from Star Trek with Spock. But you guys get my point, though. You see where I'm going. But we're all on the same page here. So I'm not trying to contend with anything or make stuff up, folks. But we live in a realm where what's real and what's not isn't always easy to figure out. And like I said, we got predators in the sky. We may even have reapers up there. We may have them armed. We don't know. The United States of America is a very big country. Very big country. And the day that this stuff goes down, when it does, I pray that all of you are ready, that you will react appropriately and not run around like chickens with your heads cut off. Some of us are going to make it. Some of us won't. I have no guarantees that I'll make it. But I do know this much, as long as we're talking about this and people are hearing it, we have injected the idea. The idea then will become reality. The reality will change with it. The thing is not to lose vision, or sight of the vision of making this change. More to the point, don't lose your spirit, because ultimately that's what this is for, is for control of the mind and body, but ultimately to control and corrupt the spirit.
See, and let me interject this. The enemy wants you to believe that resistance is futile. And that's Sun Tzu. The art of war is to psych out your enemy. That's where you can't fight City Hall. That whole mindset comes in when in fact you can, especially in numbers. You can. And see, what you said too about some of us won't make it. What we try to do through this program is offer not only the information, but the spiritual and mental preparation so you can make it to the other side. You can when you see something and it finally hits and things start happening, you are at the ready. You are more prepared than the average person who does not have this information. So this is what we're trying to do.
Well, guys, I'd like to thank you. I would love to be on here again with you guys next time.
Very good.
But right now, I know you got other callers, and you guys that are waiting, you got to hit it up. Everyone in the chat room, thank you. Thank you too, gentlemen. And anyone who's listening here or abroad, especially our men and women in uniform, I know you guys are out there listening. You have to be someone in uniform out there, and the line's got to be listening. Things are getting bad. They're getting real bad. And this isn't a game. And you guys need to start making choices, because when it comes down to it, you guys are going to be stuck over there fighting something that you shouldn't be. And you should be over here helping make a difference, because it's falling on the vets. That's what's going to fall on. It's going to fall on the police officers and the deputies who won't toe the line. It's going to fall on us, and we're going to need help. It shouldn't have to come down to this. I feel like I'm making a damn distress call right now, but that's what this is. I'm making a distress call, you know? But let's do what we do. Let's stay faithful. Let's stay true. Keep your eyes and ears open. Pray for discernment. Trust in God, because He will not let you down. My people perish for lack of knowledge, He says. Maybe I'm just an extension of His voice on this. I don't know. I like to consider myself something of a watchman myself. I've never been one who's been truly heavy into scriptures, but I know when my heart is feeling this, I'm feeling compelled to go steps further. This just isn't me, going out here talking to you guys. There's more to what's going on here than meets the eye. Just be ready. Do what you guys got to do. Use wisdom in getting what you want.
All right, my man. Thanks for the call, my friend. God bless you.
God bless you too. You guys take care.
All right, man. And see, you know what, Joe? There's more going on than meets the eye. See, and people can feel that in their gut. And folks, I know you can. I know you can. Everyone listening to this program, I know you can. Maybe you can't articulate it, and in many ways, I can't either. But you know that you know that you know.
I want to read this headline real quick before we go back to callers, because people have been posting this in chat for the last couple shows and we haven't got to it. There's a new Bible. It is called the Queen James Bible. New Gay Bible prevents homophobic misinterpretation of key verses. The Queen James Bible resolves long-standing interpretive ambiguity in a key Bible passages regarding homosexuality, making the world's first gay Bible. San Francisco, California, December 12th. The assault on gay rights is almost always comes from a belief that the Bible says homosexuality is a sin. Gay marriage is at the forefront of this religious and political debate, and it all stems from people's opinions on Bible translation. You hear that? On people's opinions of Bible translations. So now, where it says in the Bible that homosexuality is wrong is a mistranslation, apparently. But I'm not going to get into the story. We have a lot of callers.
We know that it is one of the objectives of this communist this new world order, this proud group of leaders that the Kissingers and the Brzezinskis and the Bushes and the Clintons and the Obamas and the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers and the Queen and the princes over in the UK. We know that it's their objective to desecrate our Judeo-Christian heritage, to desecrate our religion, and to take and to defile the very things that we believe in, discredit, redefine marriage, and not reinforce it.
Listen to this. It says the Queen James Bible was named in tribute to King James for what he did for the Bible and for living openly in gay relationships.
Oh, well.
Says one of the editors.
Yeah, but see, the objective is the same.
Who is the publishing company? We'll look into that, but we're going to go back to the phone lines. Thank you all for your patience. We're going to go to Pat and then Sheila. Pat, you're live on the Hagmann and Hagmann Report. I hear the echo.
Hi, guys.
Hi, Pat.
Hi. I feel like my head's going to blow off after just hearing the comments about the Queen James Bible. Oh, that's kind of like a red line for me. But all right, well, I don't want to take up too much time. I have a question, pretty much. Today at the local high school, now there's a police officer that's assigned that's in the high school. He's going to be there every day now. And I noticed at the local malls, I'm in Tennessee, it's not like we're right near the area, where the shootings happen. I also noticed in our two local malls that there's also a police presence constantly ever since the shooting with the Batman premiere.
Right.
So, to me, my opinion is, or my theory is, these things are being, done on purpose, being created in order to. Do you think it's part of the conditioning of our youth to have a constant police presence?
Yes, absolutely. Not only youth, but of the everyone from the Generation Xers to the baby boomers. I mean, it's
I want to say this. I was talking with Angie in the chat, and she told me after the shootings on Friday, she went to pick her kids up from school, and there were cop cars parked. Not like they would pull up and park to, for security, but like parked halfway sideways on the road, pretty much like there was an emergency, and it freaked her out. But they were just there for safety reasons.
But Pat, to answer your question, to really get to the heart of your question is, at the very least, if the incremental part of this is to kind of like the Christmas Day bomber too. You have an incident, and this, of course, is much bigger than an incident, but you have an incident, and that causes or that creates the necessity or the appearance of the necessity to bring in people. And pretty soon you get conditioned into seeing the militarized police force at your school, at your mall. And how far from that, then, is it when you have to pass through metal detectors? And then, maybe we'll dispatch the TSA to certain places. And see, it's then it becomes a Soviet state.
Absolutely.
So that's what we're seeing.
Okay, and I mean, I said I would bet. I said to my husband, I bet the TSA's in the mall soon. But what unnerved me the most was when my daughter came home from school and she said, "Oh yeah, there's a police officer at school," and just like it's normal, and it doesn't bother her at all that they're in the mall. And I grew up without that, and then there was an incident. A couple months ago, I was at a mall, and there was something happened, and through this back door by the food court came out maybe, 4 or 5 people in black, but they weren't your regular security officers. And I don't know if they were police. It looked like a SWAT team that came out, put this girl in handcuffs and took her in that back door. And I thought she was probably, 17, 18. And I thought, geez, she went back there with no parent, nobody to assist her. But just seeing these bizarre things. So, but thank you. That answered my question, because that's what I was thinking. My daughter's already used to this policing, and I thought it's definitely conditioning.
Oh, it is, and it's a plan. It's meant to be this way, and the fact that she's used to this, I mean, it's not something that we should be used to.
No,
everything is upside down and backwards, and it's part of the plan, Pat, and we have to. But see, it goes back to the statement, I think it was by Kissinger, where at some point we're going to be glad to have a military presence in the streets of Los Angeles. We're going to be begging for it. And is that not what people are doing? They're begging for more security. They're begging for this, and that's what's taking place.
Yes, unfortunately, we happen to see it. Well, thank you very much, you guys. You have a good night.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for your call. Yeah, and Joe, all right. Yeah, Joe, this is the way this is going. It's pretty soon. It will be normal, and this will be concurrent with the taking away our rights. And
it already, I mean,
yeah,
we've already seen it. We're already seeing it. It's happening.
But don't forget as well that that the First and Second Amendments are the rights to carry a gun and the rights to speak freely, and
to assemble freely.
Yeah, to speak and assemble freely. they are intertwined. But you lose one, you lose the other.
Yep.
And it just really angered me to hear Charles Krauthammer,
and
to say what he said. That maybe it's time. Maybe people are okay with this.
Yeah.
Well, if he might be okay with it, I'm not okay with it.
I heard an anchor on Fox News Radio say that most police officers don't want to carry guns.
Oh, come on.
I mean, really, this is what they were saying.
I've never met. Look, I talk to police officers all the time. I've never met one that says, "Yeah, well, I'll give up my gun."
Who would in such a dangerous world? Everybody.
What? So they can become Bobby?
Be armed.
Yeah. Oh, crying out loud!
It's absolutely insane.
And see, isn't this okay? Think back, folks, to the polling done around the elections. You don't think that was a head game played by people? Oh, well, Obama's ahead in the polls here, and the polls are close. Or this is all just propaganda. We are seeing propaganda. This is all propaganda. Everything you hear. That's right. And be prepared in the coming days, and especially watch now as we near the Christmas holiday and the recess. Watch what happens. And Obama,
I think 99 years ago, this Christmas Eve was the
passage of the Federal Reserve.
Correct. And if we go back maybe 30 or 26 years ago, 22 years ago, GATT was passed.
Yeah. Thanks. I just had
the trade.
I know. I was trying to. Yeah, it just went. And okay, and I want to thank Michelle Oxford. Quite late again in Oxford. God bless you, by the way, for staying up in the UK. But she bailed me out when I was struggling to quote Steve Quayle. Identify, vilify, nullify, and destroy. And that's one of his Quaylisms. And thank you, Michelle from Oxford. All right.
Moving on here. We are going to go to Sheila. You're live on the Hagmann and Hagmann Report.
Hey, guys. Doug, I got to agree with what you said, that there's more to this story than what's being told. And I'll tell you why. The only news outlet I watch is Fox. And I followed this really, really close when this all happened. And the state police chief came out and said that they couldn't figure out how this kid got inside. There's no evidence of any breaking and entering. So, I thought about what he said, but then the next morning they put a picture up of this kid. At the age of 20, looked like a recent picture of him. And the next thing, the picture was gone, and there was another one up at him on the age of 15. His eyes is like dilated and whatnot, and that's the picture they kept up. And I'm thinking, why did they take out a recent picture of him and put this particular picture up? And they kept it up. So what really blew my mind today was the governor came out and said that this kid used that rifle to blow open the door to get inside the school. Now, our state cops said that he did not have that particular rifle you were talking about. They said it was left in the back seat of the car. But still, they said, and they made it clear, he did not have that particular gun with him inside the school. And I thought, okay, somebody's lying here. Somebody's lying here. And then you got the governor coming out and saying he blew the door open with one of those guns. So you tell me.
Well, look, and again, Sheila, a lot of times first reports are wrong, and there's things that it's ridiculous. The security at schools is ridiculous. If you look at the Israeli security system, and there were pictures floating around the internet, you've got teachers carrying weapons teachers carrying weapons. And see, that's the thing. Wouldn't it have been better if the teachers would have been armed and been able to protect themselves instead of using their bodies as using themselves as human shields?
I agree 100%. If that principal had a gun on her, she'd have killed him, and that'd have been the end of it.
Or at least, had a fighting chance. And look, we become so twisted and demented in our thinking, and a lot of that thinking is a direct result of lacking the spiritual discernment necessary. And of course, at the root cause of all this, what no one's going to talk about, nobody's going to talk about, is the bankrupt spiritual, moral aspect of our nation. How far away we've thrown God out. We don't know right from wrong, or the people that do know right from wrong have chosen wrong, have chosen evil over good. And see, that's the root cause. They've devalued human life to such an extent that you're not going to be able to walk it back. So what we have to do is we have to meet the battle as it's brought to us, and I'm afraid that's where we're at.
Well, I got a poem on the way to you that I read yesterday on Alex Jones's website. I don't have it. I stuck it in an envelope and mailed it to you, and it was over the very thing you just said. I'm not going to tell you more about that, but you'll read that when you read that. And this man just hit it right on the head as far as kicking God out of everywhere. But as far as the ban on guns, Bill Clinton tried that crap back in his first term, and all of our people that have guns called the White House, all the representatives, and told them, when you Secret Service people lay all their guns down, then we might just lay ours down. And I think that's what needs to happen now.
Well,
and here you got Bloomberg. Bloomberg. They said today he's got 12 armed guards around him all the time. These people want to talk to this.
He's special. Yeah. See, it's okay though. No, it's okay. See, you can have celebrities with armed guards. You can have
Tell them that their armed guards can no longer be armed.
No, you know what? They can have mace or billy clubs.
Exactly.
How well does the gun ban work in the cities where there are no guns allowed?
I know how well. I have the highest shooting rate.
Exactly. So the Bloomberg argument, he can't even operate a city and keep the gun violence down, for crying out loud. And he's more worried about what you drink and put in your body and smoking in public areas that he can't see. He wants to run everyone else's life when he can't even run his own. And I have not heard him once speak about God or repent for the debauchery and the defilement of that he's responsible for, yet he can run our lives. Well, baloney. He's not going to run our lives. And you know what? We're going to stand up, and we are going to fight this head on, and we are going to reinforce good.
Yeah. Well, I know yesterday.
Sorry, go ahead.
George Rhodes was on with Alex yesterday, and he asked him straight up, "Where do you think this is going?" And he said, "I hate to say it, but we're looking at a civil war here."
I think we passed that. I think we passed that point on the day that shooting happened. I believe that now it's a matter of time.
I think the American people ain't looking for a fight, but I think the American people are waiting for somebody to make the first move. That's what I see happening here.
This is the objective of this revolutionary in the White House. It's chaos, and he's bringing chaos. See, that's the people have to understand. He is a revolutionary that thrives on chaos.
Exactly. I didn't watch the service last night. I can't stand looking at him. I thought it was inappropriate that he was even there, but that's my opinion. But I didn't watch that. But I just found it interesting that the governor would come out and he was angry. He made the statement that they blew that kid blew that door open to get inside that school, and I thought, something ain't right here. But I got a question for you. Are black powder guns considered a weapon?
I didn't catch
black
that.
powder guns. What was the second part?
Are they considered a weapon?
Absolutely.
When we took our training class, our law enforcement certification training class, they said that if you just had the barrel of the gun without the trigger mechanism, it can be considered a firearm, and you can
anything with the serial number on it is considered a weapon. Period. End of story.
Well, I got 2 guns for my husband for Christmas one year, and that's been probably 15 years ago. And they're black powder, and they got these little black balls with them. In fact, I think my son's got them up in the attic. But I wasn't sure whether or not they were a weapon. But I don't even know if they got a serial number on it. I'd have to look at them.
Well, it doesn't. The serial number is just for commercially made weapons. But yeah, black powder guns, any type of anything that shoots a projectile with a charge is a gun. By definition, a gun and a weapon. Yes. So if this is not going to end well.
No. Gun sales surged after the shooting.
Oh yeah, I forgot to tell you today, Joe. A conversation with a gun shop. They were busier today than they were the day after the election. What does that tell the American people? What does that tell you?
The American people is getting ready. Most of the people, the American people, we say that, ain't nobody paying no attention. Yeah, they are to that particular issue, but we're still a nation of law, and people don't want this. It's going to be brought to their front door, and that's when they're going to stand up.
I don't want it. You know what? I would much rather be on a date with my wife, having dinner, and talking about our future twilight years. Do you think I want this? Do you want this? Yeah. Folks, do you want this? No, you don't want this. But you know what? And this is why that angers me. Oh, bring it on. Do you realize, folks, the people that say bring it on, do you realize what you're asking to be brought on?
I've seen it too.
I think, if every person across this country, whether you own a gun or not, and you do not believe in what he's wanting here, bombard the White House with the phone calls telling them, get rid of the Secret Service and lay their guns down, and we just may lay ours down and all of our representatives. If you've got millions of people that do just that, maybe they'll stop and hesitate for a second and think about where they're heading with this, because that's going to get ugly.
Sheila, they're not going to look. Well, let me tell you what. That's a pipe dream. There's no one.
You think
that's
so?
Going to look. Yes, absolutely. It's a pipe dream, and the bottom line here is the guns are for the elite, for the elect, the unwashed masses like us. We don't deserve it, and the Second Amendment is meant for something totally different. That, according to the progressive, socialist, communist, fascist people out there, the global elitists, and that's how it's going to be. And I'll tell you something, the blood will flow in the streets. And I don't want that. No one wants that. But I'm going to tell you something. It's going to happen. And I don't, look, folks, I'm not
And while he hides behind his desk.
Well.
While Obama hides behind his desk.
Well, yeah. But see, Obama is quietly working in the background. And please understand this, folks. What he's
90 seconds.
Oh, you know what? Sure, we're up against the bottom of I guess at the close of the show. God bless you, my friend. Have a good night.
You too. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Sheila. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we've reached the end of the show. This was a very fast show. 3 hours just flew by, and it's interesting. I was talking earlier about the quickening of time. We were talking about that. And,
60 seconds.
We'll get into that tomorrow maybe a little bit in the Bible verses that talks about the shortening of time in the last days and what that means. Does it mean that time will be cut off short, like, you know? Or does it mean that time will appear short?
It's interesting. And folks, just do me a personal favor if you can. And if you don't mind, just please tell other people about this program. Let's make this program grow. And you know what? Let's work towards solutions, and let's work together, and let's work to praise God as well, and to do His will. But let's work together. God bless.
Have a good night, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow.